Chapter 26. He is worthy of being called Zhongli's wallet. He is really extravagant enough to casually take out 10 million morids. It is said that during this period, Dodalaya has spent at least 500 million molas to do good deeds, which has also brought Dodalaya a good reputation. Dodalaya likes this atmosphere. Anyway, it's not his mora that he spent with her, and Dodalaya now also likes to use mora to make friends. Why are you so polite? Dodalaya, you and I are half-brothers. Although Mu Yang said this, he still took the check without hesitation. This caused a huge question mark to appear on Dodalaya's head. Half-brother? What a statement! However, Zhongli has some things that need to be dealt with recently. Those things may take some time to deal with. I will write you a letter of recommendation later. If you can meet Zhongli, how about taking this letter to see him? Mu Yang thought for a moment and said. Thank you very much. Dodalaya said with a happy face. He didn't know why he wanted to find Mr. Zhongli, but when he came to Laya from the Winter Solstice Kingdom, the Queen asked him to come to Laya and make friends with a man named Zhongli. I think this person has a good connection with their Solstice Kingdom. However, if you want to get to know Zhongli, you can't go there rashly. It's best to find a reasonable excuse. Otherwise, isn't this going to tell others that Zhongli is their undercover agent in the Winter Kingdom? Mu Yang's side has become the best way. You're welcome, we are good friends. Mu Yang smiled. Dodalaya is destined to be unable to obtain the heart of God from Zhongli. The contract between Zhongli and the Ice God was destined to be impossible to conclude. But letting Zhongli spend money on mora from Baguio Bank would not put him under the slightest psychological pressure. There was no other way. Who made Bing Shen owe Zhongli money? Life money. Now, no matter how much money Dodalaya spends for Zhongli, it is all right. When Mu Yang told Zhongli this, Zhongli did not refuse. Indeed, he had already paid for the life of the Ice God, and he also had to spend some money from the Northland Bank. Otherwise, this is not in compliance with the contract. Is this Mondstadt? A few days later, Mu Yang finally arrived, passed through the stone gate, and entered Mondstadt. Along the way, Mu Yang did not rush. Instead, he walked and stopped as if on an outing. After all, in the eyes of many people, he was just an ordinary person. Even if he was better than ordinary people, it was still very limited. Of course, Mu Yang doesn't really sleep in the open air. He goes directly back to his home almost every night. Hey? The wind here. Feeling the breeze blowing in front of him, Mu Yang felt something was wrong. The wind here was not naturally formed, but was summoned by the wind god Barbados. Soon, Mu Yang thought of something. That is, Mondstadt was originally surrounded by wind and snow. It was Barbados who used his divine power to blow away the ice and snow, split the mountains, and guide the warm monsoon wind to the surrounding Mondstadt. Mu Yang originally thought that this was just Barbados' great deeds. It seemed understandable for the seven gods to want to accomplish such a thing. And because of the miracle of Barbados, Mondstadt has become the most suitable country for survival among the 7 countries. But now, Mu Yang found that he still thought too simply. That guy Barbados didn't just blow away the ice and snow. Ice and snow cannot be blown away. Otherwise, the lonely king of the tower, Dirk Apian, would not need to create a hurricane to surround old Mondstadt to protect his people. Is it because Dirk Apian can't blow away the ice and snow? No. After the ice and snow are blown away, the ice and snow will continue to blow again. This is a steady stream of power, and it is impossible for Dirk Apian to disperse his power and use it exclusively to blow away the ice and snow in Mondstadt. But Barbados did it. He not only dispersed his divine power and blew away the wind and snow, but also brought in the monsoon. Even if Barbados himself, as the god of wind, wants to maintain the current environment of Mondstadt, he will have to endure huge consumption. Moreover, this is not a one-time deal, it requires constant maintenance. Even when Barbados lacks strength and needs to fall into a deep sleep, he still maintains this power. Before, Mu Yang felt that Barbados was very powerful. After all, this was a god who directly threw a golden apple island. But now, Mu Yang can somewhat understand why his performance was so lackluster. He used most of his power to maintain Mondstadt's status quo. God loves people, and this is the first time Mu Yang has truly felt it personally. No matter how unreliable Wendy is, no one can question his love for Mondstadt, especially the people of Mondstadt. They are not qualified to question Wendy for not protecting and managing them. Sure enough, my previous understanding of the game was still too superficial. Some things need to be experienced personally to truly understand a person. Hey? Now that you're here, come out, Barbados. Mu Yang released a trace of his own aura. As he finished speaking, a green figure appeared not far from Mu Yang. It is none other than Barbados, the god of wind, also known as Wendy. Different from the cynicism that Mu Yang is known for, Wendy at this moment is extremely serious. Who are you? As the god of wind holding the heart of God, Wendy can naturally detect Mu Yang's identity. But this made him somewhat unacceptable. The person in front of him was Tian Li, but what about the previous Tian Li? He just slept for 500 years. When he woke up, Teyvat went crazy. He was still struggling with how to save Teyvat in the future. As a result, a person suspected of being Tian Li suddenly appeared in Mondstadt. Although his strength was a little weaker, the heart of God told him that the other person was Tian Li. Is it because I have been sleeping for too long and the wear and tear is too serious? At this time, Wendy also began to doubt herself. I am Mu Yang, and I am also the new Tian Li. The previous one has fallen in order to protect the continent of Teyvat. Mu Yang said in a calm voice. Chapter 27. The Law of Heaven has fallen. As the most hidden existence among the seven gods, Wendy knows nothing less than Morax. After hearing Mu Yang's words, a storm surged in his heart. The previous heavenly law has fallen, the new heavenly law has taken over, and the traveler has not yet awakened, so what should I do at this time? Before, I have obtained Morax's heart of God. Seeing Wendy like this, Mu Yang also took out the heart of the rock god and said softly. So, have you got the old man's approval? Wendy was also slightly relieved in her heart. He didn't think that the weak Tian Li in front of him would be Morax's opponent and could snatch the heart of God from his opponent. Obviously the old man has recognized this heavenly principle. This also made Barbados look at Mu Yang curiously. It's a deal, I helped him obtain the power to purify the filth of the abyss and eliminate wear and tear. Mu Yang chuckled, what about you? Barbados, do you want to make a deal with me? The power left by the predecessor Tian Li can only protect the Teyvat continent for a few years at most. I need to grow up as soon as possible, and now the earth's veins have begun to become disordered. The treatment I give you is the same as Morax. With this power, you can also purify the pollution on Teyvat. Moreover, because of Jianfeng, you are also very weak now, right? I can help you regain your strength. After Wendy stared at Mu Yang for a while, she said with a wry smile, this is indeed a deal I can't refuse. Moreover, the old man has chosen to believe you, so I am willing to do the same. Although this is different from fate, I hope you can bring the continent of Teyvat to a better future. With that said, Wendy also took out her Feng Shen heart and threw it directly to Mu Yang. For him, the heart of God is dispensable, and he doesn't need it anyway. Before, he planned to give it to the ice god half-heartedly. But now it seems that there is a better choice. He believes in Morax, so at this time, he is willing to give the heart of God to Mu Yang. The faith in this heart of God is no less than that of Morax. It seems that everyone has underestimated you. Feeling the faith in the heart of God, Mu Yang said meaningfully to Wendy. However, Mu Yang can understand it. After all, the West Wind Knights greet you with the hope that the Wind God will protect you. Coupled with the propaganda of the West Wind Church, even if Wendy has not appeared for hundreds of years, Mon's belief in Barbados is not at all less. But becoming the god of wind was never my original intention. Wendy spread her hands and chuckled. Mu Yang was silent when he heard this. The god who longed for freedom the most was bound by Mondstadt. Thinking of this, Mu Yang directly stuffed the two gods' hearts into his body. Immediately afterwards, Mu Yang felt a surge of energy pouring into his limbs, and his strength was greatly improved. If the previous Mu Yang was just average among the demon gods, of course he might be a little more powerful than the average demon god, and he should be able to beat Ossel 50-50. But now, Mu Yang is confident that he can easily defeat his previous self. He may already have the average level of the first generation 7 gods. Of course, what worries Mu Yang most is that he is getting more and more permissions. His deduction ability has been significantly improved, and his ability to purify the abyss has also been improved. This time, the broadband was upgraded from 10M to 50M. Although it's not that good, it's still different from before. If Morax was allowed to use all his strength to purify the filth of the abyss, he should be able to purify 200,000 to 300,000 points in one day. Of course, the most important thing is that Mu Yang has another ability, the ability of space, which requires familiarity with it first. Next, I will pull you into the group and give you part of my power. By the way, I hid my identity inside, called Mu Yang. Just an ordinary traveler, Morix also transformed into Zhongli. Others don't know our identity. I hope you won't let the news out. Mu Yang warned Wendy in a serious tone. Hey, do you want to hide your identity? This is what I'm best at. My name is Wendy, and I've been the best bard in Mondstadt 3 times in a row. Hearing Mu Yang's instructions, Wendy also restrained the solemn look on Mu Yang's face due to absorbing the sudden increase in strength of the heart of God. This force is no longer much weaker than in its heyday. However, this should be a good thing for the current Teyvat continent. By the way, does the old man also transform into a human being and wander around in the world? Maybe I should find an opportunity to meet him and bring the old wine buried in Fengki as a token of condolences, but I don't know if he will be knocked away by the old man. Yet. Mu Yang also directly pulled Wendy into the chat group. Ding, welcome Wendy to join the chat group. This voice suddenly appeared in Wendy's mind, and Wendy instantly understood the purpose of the chat group. Then he glanced at Mu Yang with interest. This natural principle seemed to be interesting. However, using this power to eliminate wear and tear and improve strength? Perhaps this time, the continent of Teyvat does not need to die, nor does it need to experience so much pain. Zhongli, Wendy? Long time no see, my friend. Wendy, hey, old man, long time no see. I'll bring a few bottles of wine to see you in a few days, so don't blow me away. Listening to the conversation between the two, Keqing and Ning Guang, who were discussing the reconstruction work of Gai Liwen in the Kunya Pavilion, looked at each other. They all now know that Zhongli is the immortal of Liu, but they don't know who exactly. The new one now knows Mr. Zhongli. His name seems to be from Mondstadt, but I don't know who it is. But I guess the status won't be too low. Well, the two of them, Liu Keqing, have the lowest status in the chat group. Zhongli, you are still the same as before. Although he said this, Zhongli also felt a sense of expectation in his heart. Not many of his old friends were still alive. Now that this guy was awake, they could get together. Previously, he felt that the power from the chat group had been strengthened, and the speed at which he could purify the abyss could also be increased a lot. It seemed that Mu Yang had obtained the heart of the wind god. The heart of God's bonus to Mu Yang seems to be greater than expected, and it seems that I have to make more plans for Mu Yang. Chapter 28. Wendy, hey, this chat group seems very powerful. Moreover, you can use points to transfer items. So when I have no money to drink and get charged, I can ask you for help, old man. Zhongli. Looking for help from myself? Haha, I'm afraid you are overthinking. At this time, Keqing and Ning Guang also had a general understanding of Wendy's character. This guy seemed a little out of tune. Keqing, chat groups can transfer items, why didn't I know? Grandma Ping, it must have happened just now. I felt that the speed of purifying the filth in the abyss has accelerated a lot. Keqing, is that so? Thanks for clarifying. In reality, Ning Guang stared at Keqing and said softly, Keqing, what do you think of this matter? How do I see it? How do I know how to see it? Keqing rolled her eyes, however, for us, this is definitely a good thing. Although it will consume points, at the critical moment, this may be crucial. Important role. Ning Guangrao glanced at Keqing meaningfully. She felt that Keqing probably knew more than she did, but she didn't tell her. But it doesn't matter. This should be related to Mu Yang. Do you really think that you can't find out anything if you don't tell yourself? On the other side, Wendy also asked Mu Yang, it's a very magical ability, you can also directly download knowledge, and this basic internal skill, can I popularize it in Mondstadt? Mu Yang also nodded slightly when he heard this, I believe you also know the shortcomings of God's Eye, and I plan to gradually replace the God's Eye system. Of course, the premise is that I can bear it, and I hope that you can also purify the power of the abyss. This is also beneficial to you. In addition to eliminating wear and tear, it can also increase divine power and so on. Hey, I get it. I'm afraid the old man is also working hard to earn points now, right? I never thought that the old man and I would one day have to work hard to make money. Wendy scratched the back of her head, and then her expression became serious, I hope that I can join some people from Mondstadt in the future, okay? Now Mondstadt needs a new wind. Mu Yang spread his hands. I don't reject this, but Liu has a lot of problems now, but Meng seems to have more problems, right? The main force of the Knights of the West Wind has gone on an expedition, and now Mondstadt is supported by acting leader Qin. I don't deny that Qin is a qualified knight, but she is not a qualified leader. Even small things like finding cats and dogs have to be handled personally. I very much doubt that the residents of Mondstadt will be spoiled by her, or that one day, without Qin, Mondstadt will directly become chaotic. Wendy let out an embarrassed sigh. Mond is not as bad as you said, right? There is nothing wrong with Mond's pursuit of freedom, but freedom cannot be about fighting for a declaration, let alone going too far, nor can it be based on infringing on the rights of others. You can download the history in the group and take a look. If Mondstadt continues to develop like this, sooner or later it will change towards those countries. Mu Yang stared at Wendy and said, of course, I myself will not discriminate against Mond. Liu also has a lot of problems. I have told Morix about those things, and now he is also conducting an assessment on Keqing and Ningguang. I want to see how much change they can bring to Liu. How about you? Is that so? Wendy Mo stroked her chin. Since the old man has begun to prepare for changes, I will naturally not be left behind. I can just compare with Liu. Is it Liu who has more talents, or we Mondstadt, of excellence? Mu Yang, is this still a comparison? After thinking about it, Wendy said to Mu Yang again, can you give me 2 places? The old man is assessing Keqing and Ningguang, so how about I also ask for 2 places? I have no objection to this. Mu Yang spread his hands, but there are limits to the power of purifying the abyss. The more people there are, it may not be a good thing. Wendy waved her hand and said, there is not much power in the abyss in Mondstadt. I can deal with these things myself. I want to see their own changes, especially after seeing the evolution of humans in other worlds after. To be honest, I didn't expect that human beings would be in such chaos after losing the restraint of gods. Mu Yang did not refuse after hearing this. It seems that you are more responsible than I thought. This is what I should do. Wendy's tone was firm, and then she looked at the location of the Wind Dragon ruins. A complex look flashed in her eyes, and she murmured, it gave me power, and I also need it. Use this power to protect Mondstadt. Let's go, this is not far from the Wind Dragon ruins, let's go over and purify Teyvat. Seeing Wendy like this, Mu Yang did not hesitate and extended an invitation to Wendy. What Mu Yang didn't expect was that Wendy shook her head firmly and said, now is not a good time to purify Teyvat's pain. There are people from the Abyss Order over there. If they know that we have the power to purify the Abyss, they will definitely invade us on a large scale. I believe that the old man should also have limited power to purify the Abyss. I need someone to help hide some truth. After hearing this, Mu Yang also understood what Wendy meant, and it seemed that he was eyeing the traveler. He had no objection to this. The god's heart of the wind god gave him a great bonus. At this moment, he thought of other gods' hearts. If he could obtain the heart of the grass god and the heart of the thunder god, his strength would also make a huge leap. At that time, it will be time for a real head-on war with the Abyss religion. Since you already have a plan, I won't say anything more here. By the way, who are the 2 people you like most? Mu Yang also showed a curious look at this time. The first one is Qin you mentioned before. Qin is a good leader. She is even the most serious among the West Wind Knights in the past. Her character reminds me of an old friend. I hope she can realize her shortcomings through this, and then bring changes to Mondstadt. If it is her, she should be able to succeed, right? When mentioning Qin, a trace of nostalgia flashed through Wendy's eyes. As for the other person, he was betrayed by the Knights of the West Wind, but he still loved Mondstadt deeply and used his own methods to protect Mondstadt. Chapter 29. Dialogue. Mu Yang was not surprised that Wendy would choose Dialogue. If we only look at ability, Dialogue's ability is even higher than that of Qin. It was only because of the original incident that Dialogue left the Knights of the West Wind. From the perspective of identity, background, and ability, Dialogue has qualifications that are not inferior to Qin. Wendy would choose Dialogue, which was also within Mu Yang's expectation. It's just that the 3 noble families of Mondstadt, Qin, and Dialogue, all joined the group, but in the end, without Yura, they were really forgotten by the world. Of course, Mu Yang had no intention of reminding Wendy. She would rather wait until she has the opportunity to meet the arrogant female knight. Forget it, let's talk while we walk. Those guys in the foolish crowd will probably pay attention to my schedule. Mu Yang said hello to Wendy, and then walked ahead on his own. Hey? Do you fools already know your identity? Wendy looked very serious when she heard this. If it was the ice god, Wendy would still be willing to believe it. But the fools are different. There are people in the abyss there, and I don't know why the ice god is willing to cooperate with them. Thinking of what the doctor did in Mondstadt, even Wendy, who was good-tempered, became extremely angry. These guys dare to act recklessly in Mondstadt while they are sleeping. It is not wrong for me to give face to the ice god, and I respect the ice god's decision, but this is not the reason why these people can act recklessly in Mondstadt. No, not yet, just because I am close to Keqing and Ningguang, the executive in Liu wants to win me over. Mu Yang chuckled lightly, when I was in Liu, I was in Fool. The crowd is still very respectable. As for Mondstadt, I don't know. Good guy, really a good guy. If stupid people know Mu Yang's true identity, they will go crazy, right? Just when Wendy was about to follow Mu Yang, his expression suddenly changed and he said to Mu Yang, "Friend, I need to leave first. Something has happened in Mondstadt, and I need to confirm it." Hey? Do you need help? After hearing Wendy's words, Mu Yang also asked quickly. That's not necessary. I just want to confirm something. It's not that dangerous. After saying that, Wendy also turned into a breeze and disappeared. Seeing Wendy leaving like the wind, Mu Yang also sighed lightly. Is he really a good god? Perhaps on the surface, this is a drunkard, but there are also rumors that you can find this wind god in all places except Mondstadt. But when it comes to responsibility, Wendy is far above most gods. Let me ask, which god would be willing to accept a slap from a mortal? Is it because he owes the lady? But in fact, does Wendy really owe the lady? It is the Mondstadt who owe the lady, the Knights of the West Wind. Not Wendy. The people of the Knights of the West Wind are indeed careless, and they have done many wrong things in history. But Wendy couldn't solve these problems at that time. At that time, he was summoned by heaven to go to the battlefield of Kenria. It was already very hard for Wendy to survive, and she would have to fight Dulan later. If the lady wants to blame Wendy for this, there is something wrong. But Wendy would still do it willingly, just because the other party had saved Mond in her absence, and Mond was sorry for the other. The gods in Mondstadt are like this, and the gods in Liu are like this, but what about the gods in other places? Mu Yang was very suspicious that the reason why Lei movie implemented the Eye Hunting Order had nothing to do with the final destination of the holder of the Eye of God. It's just that there are some things that she doesn't quite understand, and even if she does, she can't say them. She is protecting her subjects in her own way, but this method is a bit extreme. While Mu Yang was walking in Mondstadt, he was deducing the issues of future cultivation. He didn't need to think about it himself. As long as he let others work, he could quickly improve his strength. But others, especially Ningguang and Keqing, are different. Other humans will join in the future, and Mu Yang also needs to improve his internal power system. Fortunately, after obtaining the Heart of God from the God of Wind, Mu Yang's derivation ability has also improved to a higher level. Some things that he could not deduce before can now be deduced smoothly. Ding! The chapter Yijin Broken Bones has been uploaded to the group mall. Looking at the content that had just been uploaded by Mu Yang in the shopping mall, Mu Yang also nodded with satisfaction. Since you want to practice internal strength, the root and bones are very important. This chapter of Yijin and Broken Bones was deduced by Mu Yang himself. Can improve root bone skills. 1000 points is not expensive, and the effect is not immediate, but for many people, it is extremely useful. Then Mu Yang deduced other martial arts. As for some existing martial arts in Liu, Zhongli also taught Mu Yang before. Mu Yang didn't pay too much attention to it before, but now that it's boring, it's okay. The deduction continues. Soon, moves such as Yunlei Sword Technique. Gai, Fuyun Shot. Gai, Qinyan Spear Technique. Gai, and Gehua Sword Technique. Gai were also uploaded to Mu Yang in the group mall. At the same time, he also improved the content of the chat group. In the group mall, a search system has also been added, and the points price system has also been optimized. Things like wear and tear are directly priced by Mu Yang, and 2000 points can eliminate the impact of wear and tear for 1 year. Things like physical fitness were also digitized by Mu Yang. It's just a pity that Mu Yang's strength is not enough to give everyone a personal panel. Morix and Barbato's personal panels cannot be listed by themselves. Otherwise, Mu Yang really wants to create one. The numerical personal panel comes out. As Mu Yang improved the chat group, Keqing and the others quickly noticed these changes. It seems that this chat group is not static. It's really hard to imagine what kind of person this would be. Looking at the updated things in the chat group, Ning Guang said to Keqing seriously, "Keqing, we also need to speed up. Someone from Mondstadt has already joined the group, and I'm afraid more people will join in the future. We can't continue to sit back and wait for death. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you." Chapter 30. Ning Guang's words made Keqing stunned, but she immediately came to her senses. Indeed, the previous plans of Keqing and Ning Guang were all based on a solid foundation. But now that someone has come in from Mondstadt, the situation becomes different. Although they still don't know who Wendy is now, judging from the familiarity between him and Mr. Zhongli, it is obvious that he is not an ordinary person. It's just that they haven't seemed to have heard that Mondstadt also has an existence similar to an immortal. Now that Wendy's is in the mix, what's next? If people from the Knights of the West Wind also join in, the secret of the chat group cannot be kept. When the time comes, the basic internal strength will also be obtained by the Knights of the West Wind. Liu doesn't have much advantage. In Keqing's view, Liu and the others are going to become the nation that leads Teyvat, but now it seems like something is going to go wrong. Keqing took a deep breath, stared at Ning Guang and said, "So what should we do now? After all, we can't control who joins the chat group." Although Keqing can almost tell that the chat group is related to Mu Yang, otherwise, Mu Yang went to Mondstadt, and people from Mondstadt joined in. If there is nothing fishy in this, who would believe it? But at this time, Keqing couldn't say anything to Mu Yang. The relationship between the two was indeed a bit subtle and ambiguous, but without letting the Mondlanders join in, Keqing couldn't say anything. We need to speed up the process, especially the basic internal skills, which must be promoted to the Qinyan army as soon as possible. Since Uncle Tian is willing to help and support us, we have the power of 3 votes among the 7 stars. My relationship with Yao Guangxing is pretty good. When we do business in the future, we can promise to give the other party some benefits. I believe she will also be willing to support us. Ning Guang stared at Keqing and said, "At the same time, I plan to speed up the process of dealing with Tianxian Star and Tianji Star. Their existence will be a disaster to Liu sooner or later. When the time comes, I plan to push Yellen to become one of them." Yellen. Keqing frowned. "I don't have any objections to Yellen becoming a 7-star, she is capable enough. Moreover, he has done a lot for Liu secretly over the years, and the credit is enough. If she is willing to become a 7-star, she can even become a 7-star before me. But it is not easy to deal with Tianxuangxing and Tianjixing, if it is really so easy to catch them. We won't have such a headache. So I plan to let Yellen participate. Moreover, don't forget about basic internal strength. When we promote basic internal strength later, if they do some problematic behavior, we can also record these things. As long as they do more and more wrong things, we will have the trump card to take them down." Ning Guang said to Keqing in a serious tone. "Will it still take some time?" Keqing frowned. When Emperor Yanwang was away, they and Keqing often held meetings, but those two people always liked to go against them, or put forward some suggestions that were beneficial to the rich but not very helpful to ordinary civilians. If it were before, Keqing and Ning Guang wouldn't think much about it, but it's different now. After knowing the history of Mu Yang's previous place, they even read Ma Zhe and Mao Gai from time to time. In terms of political ability, they are not comparable to the novices in Teyvat. This is what we have to do. Moreover, if they prevent us from promoting basic internal skills, once Mondstadt starts to promote it, this can also become a reason for our criticism." Ning Guang said in a serious tone. Keqing also fell silent after hearing this. If possible, she would like to collect evidence that those people betrayed Liu, so that she can act more openly and impeach them. But now, it seems that they can only take their time. At this time, she also thought about how ridiculous the human rule she proposed to Emperor Yanwang was. Keqing can guarantee that she will work conscientiously for Liu, but can the other 7 stars really do the same? Who knows how much benefit Tianxian and the others have gained for their family after becoming the 7 stars of Liu. This was the case when Emperor Yanwang was still there, so why did Emperor Yanwang not care about Empress Liu? I am still too young after all. Also, Gan Yu, why don't you interfere more in some affairs? To be honest, the change in Keqing's thoughts now is beyond anyone's imagination. She is still pursuing human rule, but she also hopes that the immortals can control things more. Perhaps this is the system that is most suitable for Liu. Keqing, you have to work hard. Suddenly Ningguang patted Keqing's shoulder and said with a hint. Hey! Keqing blinked her beautiful eyes, somewhat confused as to what Ningguang meant. Isn't this the common goal of the two of them to re-exchange blood for Liu? Why did Ningguang suddenly say such things to himself? Mu Yang is very important to Liu, I think you should understand this. Ningguang saw that Keqing was a little confused, so he explained to Keqing. I know, but what next? Keqing was almost certain about the relationship between Mu Yang and the chat group. At the same time, Keqing also knew that Mu Yang was very likely to be at least an immortal level being. Such people are naturally important to Liu. He likes you, can you tell? Ningguang stared at Keqing closely and asked. He likes me. Upon hearing this, Keqing's eyes became erratic and her tone became nervous. Well, at least he likes you more than he likes me. Ningguang nodded affirmatively, besides, you are not repelled by him, and you even like to be in contact with him, right? Keqing's eyes were also a little wandering. When she returned to Liu recently, she always liked to have dinner with Mu Yang, which made her feel extremely relaxed and at ease. Even if you encounter difficulties at work, you will feel extremely comfortable as long as you have dinner with Mu Yang. So how do you feel about Mu Yang? Anyway, she just likes getting along with Mu Yang. Of course, I'm not saying that you should be with Mu Yang for profit, but think more carefully. A good man like Mu Yang is indeed very popular, and there will be many women eyeing him in the future. Hope you don't miss it. Ningguang pointed at Keqing D. Chapter 31. One thing to say, if it wasn't obvious that although Mu Yang was interested in him, he was obviously more interested in Keqing than him, Ningguang might have already taken the initiative. Ningguang is very strict in choosing a mate, and has never met anyone who meets her conditions before. And Mu Yang is undoubtedly qualified. Even Keqing could see something, how could Ningguang say he couldn't see it? It's just that the condensed light won't reveal it. Since you big guys like to play like this, we will not take the initiative to expose it, and we will not tell you when we see it. Mu Yang has a lot of hidden things, which makes Ningguang more and more curious about Mu Yang. However, during this period, she was really too busy, so she pinned her hopes on Keqing. This wasn't Ningguang trying to trick Qing, she really hoped that the two of them would care. Arrogant Keqing, I'm afraid you don't even know that you are falling in love. This is good for Keqing and good for Liu. Keqing looked at the sincere Ningguang for a while, her expression a little erratic. Do you like Mu Yang? I like staying with Mu Yang very much, and it makes me very comfortable. Thinking about what happened between me and Mu Yang before, it seems that it is not impossible if I am with Mu Yang. She doesn't do it because she likes Mu Yang, she just wants to make him responsible. Mu Yang didn't know that Keqing and Ningguang would have such a conversation. To be honest, as long as Mu Yang thinks about it, everyone who is pulled into the chat group by Mu Yang will be detected by Mu Yang and wants to check their privacy. It is not a secret to Mu Yang. But Mu Yang didn't do that, he hadn't done it to this extent. Moreover, Mu Yang did not believe that once he did this, existences like Morix would really not be detected. After meeting Wendy, Mu Yang's speed also accelerated a lot. It only took 5 days to reach Mondstadt. Along the way, Mu Yang didn't see a few Westwind Knights, but there were more monsters than imagined. Nowadays, the earth veins of the entire Teyvat continent are already in disorder, and due to the influence of the wind demon dragon, the earth veins of Mondstadt are even more disordered than in other countries. The number of monsters in Mondstadt is much greater than that in Liu. Because of the expedition, the Knights of the Westwind were unable to protect the entire territory of Mondstadt. Even many towns have been deserted, and residents have fled towards the city of Mondstadt. If there is one place where Mondstadt is safe, it must be within the city of Mondstadt. Along the way, Mu Yang also took action many times and got rid of many monsters. But he also found helplessly that just getting rid of the monsters was not enough. As long as the abnormalities in the ground here still existed, there would only be more and more monsters in Mondstadt. Only by solving the ley line anomaly in Mondstadt can we solve it. It's no wonder that Guy Barbados didn't use his own power to eliminate these monsters. Although Barbados doesn't have much strength left now, it is more than enough to deal with these monsters. After understanding this, Mu Yang just took action to deal with the monsters he saw, and then came to Mondstadt. Different from Mu Yang's impression, Mond was not as laid back as Mu Yang imagined. When he saw Mu Yang's arrival, the West Wind Knight guarding the door quickly walked to Mu Yang and saluted, "May the God of Wind protect you. Sorry, tourists coming from afar, please show your identity." "Hello, I am Mu Yang, from Liu, entrusted by Tianquan Ning Guang to come see Qin, the acting leader of the Knights of the West Wind. This is my proof." Mu Yang took out a letter with Ning Guang's special symbol and said. After hearing Mu Yang's words, the knight named Lawrence on the opposite side said respectfully, "A messenger from Liu? Captain Qin is at the knight's headquarters, please come with me. Then I'll trouble you." Mu Yang was not polite and followed Lawrence into Mondstadt. Different from the inaccessible wilderness and those small towns, the number of people in Mondstadt city is much larger than Mu Yang expected. But the atmosphere in the city is not much better. It is obvious that people in Mondstadt are also panicking now. Even in Mondstadt, they don't feel much sense of security. "Sorry, I made you laugh." Lawrence seemed to feel Mu Yang's emotions, and said with a smile, "Although Mondstadt is facing an unprecedented crisis now, we all believe in Captain Qin, she can definitely lead us to solve the predicament at hand." Mu Yang also nodded slightly when he heard this. The time now is too coincidental. If the Knights of the West Wind are all here, I believe Mond's dilemma can be solved. Indeed. Lawrence smiled bitterly, but he did not question anything about the expedition of the Knights of the West Wind. It was all to protect Mondstadt. The expedition is inevitable. It's just that the current situation is a little bad. As Mu Yang walked, he observed the current situation of Mondstadt city, and was a little curious in his heart. If he and the future travelers did not come, how would Qin solve this problem? Qin's strength has always been a mystery. It's like someone boasting that Dailuk can single-handedly defeat 11 executive officers of the Fools, and then survive under their hands. To be honest, if Dailuk can really do this, then he must be the god of fire. You know, the top 3 seats in the Fool's Hall all have strength comparable to that of the demon god. Some people may even be as powerful as the 7 gods. If Dailuk could really do this, he would really become the god of fire. As for Qin, Mu Yang feels that she, Dailuk, and Eula should be about 50-50ths in strength. As for how strong she is, she should be slightly stronger than Keqing before cheating. After all, they are both older. It's bigger than Keqing, but there's a limit to how strong it can be. Of course, today's Mondstadt is not completely devoid of combat power. For example, Lisa is also a rare genius in the order. Kelly is known as Mondstadt's #1 combat power. As long as the timing is right, she can completely destroy all monsters. Explode to the sky. There is also a Beidou. This is also a combat power that has been ignored by countless people. Today's Mondstadt is very weak, but also very strong and very promising. Under the leadership of Lawrence, Mu Yang also came to the headquarters of the Knights of the West Wind. After some reports, Mu Yang also saw the soul of the Knights. He looks really good. Chapter 32. Qin is not that old, and is about the same age as Keqing, but when it comes to growth, Qin is ahead of Keqing. Of course, it's not that Keqing's figure is bad, but that Qin has some fouls. People like Qin are completely talented. Similarly, there is one thing that Mu Yang is very curious about: how does Qin manage to feel both girly and married? Guests who have come from afar, may the wind god protect you. When Qin saw Mu Yang's arrival, she also gave Mu Yang a knight's salute. "Hello, Captain Qin." Mu Yang took out Ning Guang's letter and handed it to Qin. "This is Ning Guang's letter. Please wait." Qin took Mu Yang to sit on the sofa in the office, and Lawrence left very wisely. Qin opened Ning Guang's letter in front of Mu Yang, read it quickly, and then looked at the young man who had been staring at her for a long time. There was some doubt in my heart. What was this young man looking at me like this? Could it be that there is something on my face? But when I went out in the morning, I obviously looked in the mirror. However, this young man is really good looking, his smile is really sunny, and he has a strong breath of wind. If it weren't for the fact that he is from Liu, Qin would have suspected that he was Barbados, the god of wind. I never thought that besides Lord Barbados, there would be other beings containing such pure wind element. Of course, Qin's affinity for the wind can be regarded as Qin's special talent. It's just that not many people know about it. Wait, this young man does not seem to have the eye of God, and listening to the content of Ningguang's letter, it seems that Mu Yang is very strong, so what is the identity of the other party? Qin asked slightly uneasily, excuse me, are you an immortal from Liu? Is it an immortal? Mu Yang was also obviously stunned for a moment. He obviously did not expect that Qin would have such a guess. He shook his head slightly and said, no, I am not an immortal. I am just an ordinary traveler from another world. Is that so? Qin's brows frowned slightly, and then she became more and more curious about Mu Yang, a traveler from another world? Regarding the matter of another world, she also heard Ms. Alice mention that it could cross the world. It seemed that this was also a very powerful existence. Along the way, I discovered that the situation in Mondstadt is much worse than I imagined. The disorder of the Earth's veins is much greater than that of Liu, and there are many more monsters. Mu Yang said in a serious tone, are you doing any investigations in Mondstadt during this time? Sorry, we are still investigating. It was not like Mondstadt had never been attacked by a dragon before. But the Earth veins have never been so abnormal. This is beyond common sense, but we haven't found much information yet. Qin said with helplessness on her face. On the way to Mondstadt, I also conducted an investigation on the Wind Demon Dragon. It seems to be very similar to your legendary East Wind Dragon Teyvat. Mu Yang stared at Qinchu and said. How is this possible? Rao Shiken also exclaimed when he heard this, but soon, Qin gave out another wry smile, but if it is the dragon of the East Wind, why did it attack Mondstadt? It is obviously a descendant of Lord Barbatos and our patron saint of Mondstadt. You have forgotten it, haven't you? Mu Yang spread his hands. In the world I was in before, there was a saying that those who forget history are tantamount to betrayal. Teyvat used to protect Mondstadt, but now the people of Mondstadt, even you Knights of the West Wind, have forgotten it. This is equivalent to a betrayal. No, we have never forgotten Teyvat, but we just can't accept that it is clearly the dragon of the East Wind, but it wants to attack Mondstadt. Qin quickly denied, actually, we had some doubts before. After all, that kind of wind was obviously abnormal, but because Teyvat is our patron saint, this possibility was quickly eliminated. Is this so? But I heard that the temple, which is the guardian of the Four Winds, has been abandoned for hundreds of years. Mu Yang reminded pointedly. Qin instantly understood what Mu Yang meant, and said sincerely, this is indeed something we didn't do well. From now on, the Knights of the West Wind and I will remember history and face it squarely. Thank you, Mr. Mu Yang, if it weren't for you, we probably wouldn't be able to face this. I don't know how to solve this matter. I'm afraid that the current abnormality in the Earth's veins is also related to something happened to the temple guarded by the Four Winds. Speaking of this, Qin's heart was filled with annoyance. So, this time, Mondstadt is also responsible for it. Those temples had the effect of suppressing and calming the Earth veins, but they ignored these places, which caused the abnormality of the Earth veins to intensify. You're welcome. Even without me, I believe you will understand later. Mu Yang, however, was not arrogant and said with humility. But that may take a long time, but now every day is crucial. Qin said with a sincere expression, thank you so much, Mr. Mu Yang. Regarding Miss Ningguang's request to rent a Beidou, we, the Knights of the West Wind, are willing to let it go in principle, but if a Beidou himself is unwilling to leave, we cannot force him. However, out of gratitude, if Albedo is unwilling to go to Liu, we Mondstadt are willing to send Sugar to lead several alchemists to Liu. Although Sugar's alchemy is not as good as that of Albedo, he is already the second best alchemist in Mondstadt. Then I'll trouble you. Mu Yang did not refuse after hearing this, however, please let me meet with a Beidou first. I plan to persuade a Beidou myself. Of course there is no problem. Qin immediately agreed, Mr. Mu Yang, you have come all the way, and the place you want to stay has not yet been resolved. Now Mondstadt is in trouble, and the hotels in the city are very crowded. Why don't you let me come and provide Mu Yang with you? You arrange accommodation. Then I'll trouble you. Naturally, Mu Yang would not refuse Qin's kindness. Moreover, to be honest, given the current situation in Mondstadt, if Mu Yang was not provided with a place to live, Mu Yang himself would not be confident that he could find a place to live in Mondstadt. I'm afraid he doesn't have to go back to Liu's home every day. Oh, by the way, there is Sky Island above Mondstadt. Mu Yang can go home and have a look. But apart from the maintainers of heavenly principles, there was no life left, and he really didn't want to go back. Please come with me. Seeing this, Qin took Mu Yang and took the lead towards the door. Mu Yang followed Qin, looking at the soul of the knights, and wanted to buy a stake. What should I do? Chapter 33. Captain Qin. Hello, Captain Qin. Walking on Mondstadt Street, people came over to say hello when they saw Qin. Qin also smiled in return, but Mu Yang could clearly feel that Qin's smile was very inconsistent. After arriving in a deserted place, Qin finally stopped smiling. It's ironic, right? Even now, they still trust me and think that I can solve the Wind Demon Dragon incident. But I didn't have the ability to solve this matter before, but I still had to show a confident smile to them. If even I fall down, then they will be even more panicked. Mu Yang was also a little silent when he heard this. He pinned the entire Mondstadt on Qin, who was less than 20 years old. Is this really good? After hesitating for a while, he slowly said, in the world I was in before, there was a man named King Arthur, who was very similar to you. Next, Mu Yang told the story about Artoria. After listening to this story, Qin murmured, humility, honor, sacrifice, bravery, mercy, spirit, honesty, justice. This made Mu Yang raise an eyebrow. He asked Qin to find out what flaws Artoria had, but Qin directly paid attention to the 8 virtues of knights. Little sister, are you paying attention to the wrong thing? Mu Yang, I want to incorporate these 8 virtues into the Knight Code of the Knights of the West Wind. Qin looked at Mu Yang with burning eyes and said. Since you like this, then use it. You don't need to tell me at all. Mu Yang spread his hands, but haven't you noticed that you and Artoria are very similar? It is an honor for me to be similar to such a great king. Qin said in a sincere tone, I am still far from Artoria now. I know you want to remind me not to make the same mistake as Artoria. The same mistakes, but I know. There is still a big gap between me and Artoria. I am not qualified to compare with Artoria now. Moreover, she is the king, and I am only the acting leader of the Knights of the West Wind. Mondstadt has only one master, and that is the wind god Barbatos. Although Lord Barbatos has not appeared for a long time, we still believe in him and think that he will guide us forward. I am no exception. Of course, Mondstadt, the unclaimed king established by Lord Barbatos, essentially belongs to all Mondstadt people. After a pause, Qin smiled again and said, however, from this Arteria, I also discovered a lot of my own shortcomings. Maybe I should also trust the knights below instead of shouldering everything myself. As for the King of Knights, if I dare to do this, I will probably be even more infamous than the Lawrence family. Mu Yang chuckled upon seeing this, and it would be great if Qin could hear it. He didn't like those giant babies in Mondstadt, and he was also somewhat prejudiced against Mondstadt. But after meeting Qin, Mu Yang had other ideas. There seemed to be many pure people in this country. There are some qualities on the piano that neither Keqing nor Ningguang have. It's no wonder that Wendy is so optimistic about Qin. As for Falga, the real grand leader of the Knights of the West Wind, Wendy didn't even mention him. After walking for another 5 or 6 minutes, Qin took Mu Yang to a small courtyard. Qin opened the door and explained to Mu Yang, this is my own residence, but because I am too busy during this period, he usually lives at the Knights' headquarters. If you don't mind Mu Yang, you can stay here. The quilts in the guest rooms are all new. Okay, I'll trouble you, Qin. Even though he couldn't live with Qin, Mu Yang was personally quite satisfied. Qin's house, rounding it off, I can be considered living with Qin, right? If I were more of a gentleman, wouldn't I be able to find Qin's clothes later? Ahem, you can't think like that, you are an upright person. This is what I should do. Qin said with a sincere look, Mu Yang, you have helped me a lot. After hearing the legend of King Arthur, the confusion in my heart has disappeared. Although I cannot become a king like King Arthur, when Lord Barbatos is away, I will lead the Knights of the West Wind to make Mondstadt a better place. I want to be a knight like Artoria. As a bystander, Qin could naturally see that many of Artoria's behaviors were in line with the behavior of a knight, but not the behavior of a qualified king. Therefore, in Qin's opinion, Artoria is more like a knight. And this is also Qin's goal. Although Camelot is gone in the end, he has also figured out his position, right? But someone wants to make you a king. Mu Yang looked at Qin meaningfully. That guy Wendy expected more from Qin than just being a knight. Just like Vanessa at the beginning, Vanessa didn't think about establishing the Knights of the West Wind at first. Under Qin's leadership, Mu Yang also visited Qin's cabin. Different from Keqing's house, Qin's cabin is obviously much smaller in area, and it is also an obvious Mondstadt-style building, but the decoration of this house is full of girlishness. It's hard to tell. You are such a leader of Qin. The house was kept very clean, and there were no clothes scattered around, which somewhat disappointed Mu Yang. Ahem, my sister Barbara is often responsible for the decoration here and the cleaning of the house. Sensing Mu Yang's emotions, Qin quickly explained. As the acting leader of the Knights of the West Wind, he cannot show such an immature side in front of guests. Barbara, I feel so wrong to you. Is that so? It seems that your sister, Miss Qin, is a very cute girl. Mu Yang chuckled, to thank Miss Qin for preparing a place for me. I wonder if I can treat you to a meal. How about expressing gratitude? Would you like to treat me to dinner? Let me thank you, please. After all, you have solved a lot of confusions for me. If it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't know how to solve the problem of abnormal earth veins until now. Qin shook her head repeatedly and then said seriously. Originally, Qin planned to arrange a place for Mu Yang, then call a meeting with the West Wind Knights, and then go explore the temple guarded by the Four Winds to find out the truth about the abnormalities in the earth's veins. But Mu Yang said so. Qin also felt that she needed to treat this guest from afar to dinner, no matter how urgent the time was. Moreover, I was indeed a little hungry at this time. Then I'll trouble you. Mu Yang was not polite, and then he took out a Teyvat tour guide and asked, I heard that the daughter of the author of this book, Miss Alice, is now fostered in Mondstadt. I would like to ask Qin, do you have a way to contact Miss Alice? D. Chapter 34. Miss Alice. Qin also became alert after hearing this. She had heard that Miss Alice had offended many people. Alice had great strength and did not need to worry about other people's revenge. Keqing is different. If people know that Keqing is Miss Alice's daughter, there is no guarantee that no one will come to take revenge on Kelly. Although Kelly's guardian is Albedo, the person who usually takes care of Kelly is Qin. For Qin now, there is no difference between Kelly and her biological sister. Well, I have something to ask her. If you see Miss Alice next time, remember to tell her that I am looking for her. Mu Yang said softly. Alice is also a technology master. On the one hand, she can receive things from other worlds, and she even has the ability to travel to other worlds. Mu Yang is very interested in Alice. With her help, Mu Yang feels that her growth rate will also be high. It can be speeded up a lot. Even if Mu Yang can contact other worlds, it is not certain. Is that so? I understand. Qin breathed a sigh of relief. She wasn't here to trouble Miss Alice, so that would be the best. Miss Alice, there is a way for us to contact her. But we cannot guarantee that we can contact Miss Alice all the time. She seems to be very busy, but she will use special means to contact us in the future. Is that so? I'll trouble you. At this time, Mu Yang was actually full of curiosity. The Witches' Guild has always been a very mysterious organization. At first, many people said that Lisa was a member of the Witches' Guild, but facts have proven that she has nothing to do with the Witches' Guild at all. The name Rose Witch is indeed too misleading. In fact, Lisa is not a member of the Witches. However, there is no doubt about the strength of the members of this Witch Guild. Not to mention Alice, even Riandot is enough to make the seven gods afraid. Mu Yang didn't know why Alice and the others became friends with Riandot. Shouldn't someone like Riandot be eager to kill each other directly? But Alice and the others didn't do that. Of course, the Witches' Guild was established before the Battle of Cambria, and Riandot did not fall into the abyss at that time. But Mu Yang wanted to meet Alice, and also wanted to meet the other members of the Witch Club. I want to meet this group. They may be the strongest group of people under the seven gods on the continent of Teyvat. No, this is not a difficult problem. Qin shook his head slightly. I hope I can help you. After pondering for a moment, Qin asked Mu Yang again, Mu Yang, do you like drinking? Drink? Mu Yang was stunned. Are you going to take yourself to the bar directly? Yes, our wine industry in Mondstadt is the best in the entire Teyvat continent. Since I want to entertain you, I naturally want to entertain you with the best wine in Mondstadt. Although Qin wanted to deal with the temple guarded by the Four Winds at this time, Mu Yang also needed to entertain. Forget it, it's not too early today and Kaya and the others are already feeling tired, so let them rest tonight. Moreover, Qin felt that their power was not enough. At this time, she needed Dailuk's help. Sometimes, Qin would feel that Dailuk might be the most suitable acting leader of the Knights of the West Wind. Is that so? Mu Yang did not refuse after hearing this. Although he was not an alcoholic, he also wanted to taste Mondstadt's fine wine. Within the Angel's Gift, the arrival of Mu Yang and Qin attracted the attention of countless people. There is no way that Qin is the most famous person and the most popular person in Mondstadt today. Even now, Qin still has the support of the vast majority of people. They believe that Qin can protect everyone. As for those who have left their hometown and come to Mondstadt and become homeless, that is naturally not Qin's problem. There is no other way. Who asked the Grand Master to lead 90% of the elite expedition of the Knights of the West Wind? It is very commendable that Qin can lead the remaining Westwind Knights to protect Mondstadt city and prevent it from being occupied by monsters. As for how to deal with the monsters outside, it may require the Grand Leader and others to come back, or Qin can train a new Knights of the West Wind. In short, this is all the fault of the Grand Leader Falga and has nothing to do with Qin. Senior, are you here? After nodding to everyone in the tavern, Qin also asked the bartender Charles. I just came back not long ago. Charles glanced at Mu Yang beside Qin. The dress didn't seem to be from Mondstadt, but from Liu. But why did Qin bring him to Angel's Gift? Is it really just for drinking? Charles doesn't think so. Moreover, I still came to see the boss. Please prepare a private room for me and inform Senior Dailuk that I have important information that I want to share with him. Qin said in a serious tone. Seeing Qin like this, Charles didn't ask any questions. He took the two of them into a box and left in a hurry. A moment later, a handsome man with red hair and a kitten face walked in. He sat directly opposite Mu Yang and Qin and said coldly, Tell me, what's the matter? At the same time, the other party's eyes were still on Mu Yang. Dailuk is naturally no stranger to Mu Yang. He is the advisor of Liu Keqing Ningguang, the neighbor of Keqing, and has a close relationship with Dadalia, the executive of the Fools. This information is all information from the intelligence organization where he works. Senior, this is Mu Yang, a helper from Liu. He has provided us with information before, saying that the recent disorder of the earth's veins may be related to the temple guarded by the Four Winds. Seeing Dailuk look like this, Qin also explained quickly. She knew Dailuk, and he loved Mond just as much as she did. Although the other party withdrew from the Knights of the West Wind, Keqing believed that Dailuk's love for Mondstadt had not changed from beginning to end. A temple guarded by the Four Winds. Dailuk narrowed his eyes, and then let out a disdainful snort. It seems that the Knights of the West Wind are really going back more and more. Even such important information is. Someone else needs to tell. Sure enough, quitting the Knights of the West Wind was the most correct decision in my life. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you. Chapter 35. Senior. Qin glanced at Mu Yang awkwardly. The family scandal should not be made public. Although the problems of the Knights of the West Wind were really big, it was indeed a bit embarrassing for Dailuk to say it in front of Mu Yang. Dailuk snorted, then he stared at Mu Yang with burning eyes and said coldly, I'm very curious as to why you told Qin about this. Logically speaking, the worse Mond's situation is, the greater the benefit to the Fools. You seem to have a good relationship with Dadalia, the executive of the Fools. Qin Vinian also looked at Mu Yang aside. Does Mu Yang have a good relationship with the executives of the Fools? This is a mission. Mu Yang spread his hands, after all, I am Ningguang's consultant. Dadalia wants to understand me and learn something from me. Similarly, I can also use this to understand Dadalia. Leah. Qin and Dailuk were also silent. If this is the case, it can indeed explain a lot. The executive officers of the Fools are not easy to deal with. The more you come into contact with them, the more dangerous it becomes. Dailuk reminded him with a slight snort. I know this. Mu Yang spread his hands. It is rumored that the executive officers of the Fools are extremely powerful, and the top 3 even have strength comparable to the devil. I can't stand it if they try to deal with me. Of course, Mu Yang is just talking. Now that his strength has reached the standard of the 7 gods, even if the ice god comes, Mu Yang will not look down upon him at all. However, he is still in the growth stage and cannot expose himself yet. Qin and Diluc's expressions became extremely solemn when they heard this, and they knew this. The doctor came to Mondstadt before, but Mondstadt without the gods could not stop the doctor at all. For Mond, this is an absolute disgrace. Humph. Diluc snorted lightly. He looked at Qin and said, I will investigate the temple guarded by the four winds and give you the answer tomorrow morning. After saying that, he stood up and left. Sorry, Senior didn't mean it, he just had a grudge against the fools. Diluc left without saying a word, and Qin quickly explained. It's okay, I've heard a little bit about it. Mu Yang narrowed his eyes, fools are really unpopular. Moreover, according to my investigation, they are instigating people in various countries and even breaking out wars so that they can take in orphans and become a source of soldiers for the fools. Qin was silent for a while after hearing this. In the beginning, Mondstadt almost became the military base of the fools. For Mondstadt, this was also a loss of power and humiliation to the country. However, at this time, she didn't want to talk more. I don't know where Lord Barbatos has gone. If Lord Barbatos is still there, they Mondstadt don't need to be so passive. Shortly after Diluc left, Charles came up with a piece of sweet flour-stuffed chicken and said, What do you two want to drink? The boss said before that your consumption today is free of charge. You are really rich. Mu Yang curled his lips, but didn't say much. From what Mu Yang knew, Diluc was a guy who was cold on the outside and hot on the inside. He didn't mean to order those famous wines. Since Diluc said it, he would definitely include those wines, but he didn't care much about it. Thank you very much. Qin wanted to refuse. After all, she came to Diluc for help this time. However, thinking that the person Diluc was inviting might not be him, but Mu Yang, he chose to agree, bring me a cup of black coffee. As for me, just have a cup of apple juice. I heard this is your specialty too. Okay, wait a minute, you two. Charles didn't hesitate and walked out directly. Mu Yang picked up the knife and fork and divided the chicken with Qin. This time's incident is likely to have something to do with the Abyss religion. You need to be careful in the future. If they were to trick him, Mondstadt would be in danger. Qin also shuddered when he heard this. Thanks for reminding me, I understand. We will be careful later. The current city of Mondstadt is indeed very dangerous. After that, they will have to deal with the four guardian temples. At that time, the existing main force of the Knights of the West Wind will inevitably be dispatched. Once the Abyss Order takes this opportunity to invade Mondstadt, wouldn't Mondstadt be in danger? You can't act rashly. You must be prepared before leaving Mondstadt. It seems it's time to call Abedo over to guard Mondstadt. If Abedo is here, there shouldn't be any problems, right? Well, there are monsters in many places outside now, why not let the Spark Knight take action? Facing this kind of battle without one of his own, he can bring his combat power to its fullest, right? Mu Yang tore off a chicken leg and took a delicious bite, his eyes lit up. Not to mention, Angel's Gift's sweet flour-stuffed chicken tastes really good. If we just compare the taste, Mu Yang even feels that the chef here is not inferior to Master Mao from Wanmantang. In terms of ingredients, it is obvious that the ones here are better. Is this really food that can be cooked in a tavern? Seemingly understanding Mu Yang's thoughts, Qin also explained, Angel's Gift, although it is a tavern, the chefs here are the best in Mondstadt. Then, Qin's expression became serious. You actually know Kelly, but that's right, after all, you know Miss Alice. Kelly's destructive power is too great. Once Kelly is allowed to do whatever she wants, the entire topography of Mondstadt will change. Moreover, this may also arouse the fear of other forces, and they will be detrimental to Kelly in the future. Kelly is still young and mentally immature, so I don't want Kelly to get involved in these things. Is that so? Mu Yang nodded slightly. Qin, you will be a good mother in the future. Mom, isn't it too early to say this? However, Kelly will be exposed sooner or later, right? What's more, you can also ask Kelly to make some bombs specifically to deal with those monsters. At that time, as long as Kelly is not exposed, it will be fine. Mu Yang said in a serious tone, I believe that it shouldn't be difficult for Kelly to develop some bombs that can be detonated, right? Qin also fell silent upon hearing this. It seems that this can indeed be done. Although she didn't have much confidence in the power of Kelly's bomb, she was not worried that the power was too small, but that it was too powerful. But now, this seems to be an excellent opportunity for Mond. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you. Chapter 36. Thanks for reminding me, I will consider this matter later. Qin was also a little excited at this time. Qin can't find a way to break the current situation. Most of Mondstadt has been occupied. Even if the current Knights of the Westwind are to clear out these monsters, it will be a drop in the bucket. Maybe at this time, Kelly's power is really needed. Although she can't see her bomb explode, Kelly should be very happy, right? Seeing Qin Yi's move, Mu Yang didn't say much. It would be bad if we talk too much about this topic, and it might even make people feel that Mu Yang has ulterior motives. Mu Yang and Qin happily ate at the angel's gift, and then after Mu Yang was sent home by Qin, Qin also left in a hurry. She still has a lot of work to do, and it's far from time to rest. Not long after entering Qin's house, Mu Yang felt a breeze blowing, and then a green figure appeared not far from Mu Yang. You guys are finally here. Looking at Wendy not far away, Mu Yang couldn't help but complain, by the way, why did you leave in such a hurry? The Abyss cult stole my 7 Heaven God statue and tried to use the power of the Abyss to pollute the 7 Heaven God statue. Wendy's expression also became unusually serious. Oh? Will this affect you? Mu Yang narrowed his eyes and asked curiously. It will have some impact. Wendy spread her hands. If it goes on for a long time, I may be contaminated by the power of the Abyss, but in a short period of time, it will not have much impact on me. The main 7 Heaven God statue also has the function of suppressing the power of the Earth line. If the 7 Heaven God statue is contaminated, bigger problems will occur in the Earth line in the future. Mu Yang also fell silent after hearing this. Mondstadt's problem itself is already huge. If we talk about the disorder of the Earth veins, this matter is Mu Yang's problem. After all, the predecessor Tianli is finished, the problem of the Earth veins has not been solved, and Mu is temporarily unable to solve the problem of the disorder of the Earth veins. At least Mu Yang's strength must be further improved. Later, due to the relationship between the Wind Demon Dragon Teyvat, Mondstadt's Earth veins became more and more disordered, which made matters worse. The main force of the Westwind Knights went out on expeditions one after another, which also resulted in Mondstadt being unable to eliminate the monsters in the first time, which also led to more and more monsters. There is no doubt that no country in the entire Teyvat continent can compare to Mondstadt in terms of the degree of disorder in its landlines. Zhongli had also told Mu Yang before that the layer rock abyss has not been very peaceful recently. Obviously, this is also related to the actions of the abyss cult and the disorder of the Earth's veins. At this time, Mu Yang also thought of Dao wife. Mondstadt has a big problem, but what about Rice wife? Mu Yang still remembers the plot of Shenying Daizhu. If the abnormal progress is followed, Inajima can only be said to be in a very critical situation. But if it is due to the disorder of the Earth's veins that the sacred cherry tree cannot suppress the filth, then Inajima will probably explode directly by then, right? Moreover, Rice wife itself is close to the Dark Sea. If something goes wrong with Rice wife, the entire Teyvat continent will be in crisis. It seemed that after Mondstadt's matter was over, he would need to make a trip to the Rice wife. Without going to see Lei Movie, Mu Yang is not very confident about defeating Lei Movie now. According to Zhongli's words, if he fought Lei Xianqian himself, the score should be 2.5 to 7.5. This is already very rare, after all Zhongli is the god of war. But just comparing with martial arts, Zhongli didn't think that Balzabul was inferior to him. Moreover, Zhongli also vaguely revealed that the birth of Baalzab and Baal has its own special characteristics. It is a matter of course that they are powerful. Mu Yang doesn't want to confront Lei Qianqian just yet. If she knows, even Tianli will fall, and who knows if her brain will be damaged directly. Ying Bao is already pitiful enough, and her brain is not working well, so don't embarrass her. Mu Yang is going to win over the fox first. No matter how lazy this fox is, he can't ignore Ina's wife's important matters. Then let the stinky fox worry about it. Did you get the 7 Heavenly God statue back? Mu Yang thought for a while and asked Wendy, based on what I know about you, I'm afraid you won't do this. Hey, because of your power, even if the abyss wants to corrode me, it is almost impossible. I can even get the so-called points through this. Wendy scratched her head, but I feel like they are targeting me in this matter. Whether it's the matter of Teyvat or the 7 Heaven statue, they are all directed at me. They seem to be forcing me to wear the crown. But they seem to have a plan against me. The Abyss Cult. Mu Yang scratched his head. Actually, if possible, I wouldn't mind getting rid of them, but since the other party dares to challenge the laws of heaven, I am afraid that I can't solve it now. Even if I want to help you now, I can't do much. If the people of the Abyss Cult knew that my predecessor Tian Li had fallen and I was so weak, they would probably get rid of me at all costs. Wendy nodded repeatedly. I understand this, so I arranged for someone to handle this matter. I believe it won't be long before she enters Mondstadt. Watch my performance then. She also has a certain purifying effect on the power of the abyss. Is the screen still empty? Mu Yang is still very interested in them. Of course, the one that interests Mu Yang the most is Paimon. Judging from the plot in Fontaine, it can almost be determined that Paimon came from Sky Island. Many people even suspect that Paimon is probably one of the 4 demons, but she may have lost her power. Mu Yang didn't know the specific details. He still had to meet Paimon. It's a pity that Paimon can't follow him. Otherwise, it would be good to kidnap Paimon and keep him as a pet. Paimon is very good at eating, but Mu Yang still makes money very quickly. A completely supportable Paimon. Well, if it's Kong, I'll find a way to take Paimon away. If it's Ying, we'll talk about it then. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you. Chapter 37. Are you going to use her to solve this? Is this also true of the abyssal taint on Teyvat? Mu Yang asked, staring at Wendy. Well, that's what I plan for the time being. If it's her, she can solve Teyvat's problem. Wendy nodded slightly. We don't need to be exposed by then. Of course, if possible, I also want to purify these myself. Pollute. It takes the wear and tear off my body after all. The wear and tear on Wendy's body is very serious, second only to the wear and tear on Moruk's, and he even needs to sleep to avoid the wear and tear. Now there is a way to solve the wear and tear problem, and Wendy naturally doesn't want to miss it. Fortunately, he can also use the Millennium Great Movement to help Mond get rid of those monsters. These are also a steady stream of points. Wendy said that she would not miss such an opportunity. Since you have decided this way, then so be it. After thinking for a moment, Mu Yang asked Wendy again, then when will Qin and I be brought into the group? Well. Wendy rubbed her chin, then go over now and get Qin into the chat group first. This can also help her improve her strength, and if they rashly go to the temple guarded by the 4 winds, they may also be in crisis. Okay. After Mu Yang said that, his clothes changed and he transformed into his own magical costume. Well, it's a bit like the suit of the maintainer of heavenly principles. Mu Yang's face has also changed a lot, it's really natural. Wendy curled her lips. For some reason, when facing Mu Yang in this state, he couldn't even raise his fighting spirit. However, he also transformed and directly put on his divine costume. I just don't know if Qin will recognize her like this. As a bard, Wendy has also seen Qin. What if she recognizes herself? Of course, as someone she recognized, Wendy didn't mind letting the other party know her secret like she did with Vanessa. As long as you don't reveal your identity, that's fine. Moreover, judging from Mu Yang's appearance, she doesn't seem to want to hide her identity, right? It's just that there are some things that you see through but don't tell. It's weird to join a chat group unexpectedly, and Mu Yang happens to be in it. Wendy asked Mu Yang with a strange expression, can't you just add someone in from a distance? Otherwise, you will be exposed sooner or later. Is that so? Mu Yang closed his eyes, then shook his head slightly and said, at least I can't do this now. Unless my strength can be improved, I won't be able to bring people in from a long distance. It's such a pity. With Qin's wisdom, she can definitely see some clues. Wendy spread her hands and said teasingly. I know, but is this important? As long as it's good for you. Since I don't want to be exposed, smart people will pretend not to know. Mu Yang snorted lightly. After sending Mu Yang home, Qin made herself a cup of coffee, then buried her head on the table and burned the midnight oil. Since becoming the acting team leader, Qin has been working more and more. Today, Qin wants to work 20 hours a day. But Qin also knew that if she collapsed from exhaustion, Mond would be even more dangerous. Suddenly, Qin felt an extremely pure wind appear in the office, which instantly aroused Qin's vigilance. Who? Qin took out his Wind Eagle sword and looked at the visitor with vigilance. However, after seeing the other party's appearance, Qin was dumbfounded. She asked with a somewhat anxious tone, "Lord Barbatos." As the heir to the oldest family in Mondstadt, Qin had obviously seen the portrait of Barbatos. Moreover, don't forget that Qin is not only Gunhild's heir, her father is also the general manager of the West Wind Church, and she has access to much more information than the average person. Of course, the most important thing is that Qin can feel the breath of the wind. Such a pure wind element is probably only available to the wind god Barbatos. My devout believer. Are you worried about the disorder of Mondstadt's earth veins? Are you worried about the problem of the wind demon dragon? Wendy subconsciously wanted to say hey, but she still pretended to be serious. Yes, Lord Barbatos, if our investigation is correct, the wind demon dragon should be your dependent, Lord Barbatos. How can we solve its problems? Qin knew that she should not be able to defeat the wind demon dragon. If we go all out, add Diluc, Lisa, Yura, and let Kelly drop a few bombs, we should be able to defeat Teyvat. Teyvat swallowed the poisonous blood during the battle with Dulan 500 years ago, and I was exhausted from the war 500 years ago and fell into a deep sleep until now. Now, I'm afraid I won't be able to use much strength to deal with Teyvat. But I found a friend who will give you a power that can help you become stronger and at the same time solve the abyssal power in Teyvat. Wendy glanced beside her. Immediately, a door to space opened, and Mu Yang got out of it. Before Qin could see Mu Yang clearly, a voice appeared in her mind, "Ding, congratulations on joining the chat group." Chat group? Qin was stunned for a moment when he heard this. If Barbatos hadn't been by his side, Qin would have suspected that this was the evil magic of the Abyss Mage. However, Qin soon understood the purpose of the chat group, the power to purify the Abyss. It's almost unheard of, but for the current Mondstadt, this force can be crucial. Ningguang, Qin? Are you joining in too? Welcome. Keqing, welcome. Wendy, hey, welcome. Ningguang and Keqing? I didn't expect that they are already here. Qin's eyes flickered slightly. But this Wendy seems to be one of their bards in Mondstadt. I hope this power can help you become stronger as soon as possible. Barbatos paused and continued, it won't be long before a traveler named Ying comes to Mondstadt. She has the ability to help Mondstadt. Virtue. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you. Chapter 38. A traveler called Ying? I see. Qin nodded thoughtfully, so we need to wait for the travelers to arrive before we solve Teyvat's problem. Well, there is still the shadow of the Abyss cult behind this incident. It is not convenient for me to take action at will, otherwise they will see my weakness. Wendy lied and said without drafting, of course, you can purify the power of the Abyss, it is best not to use it in front of people from the Abyss Order. Otherwise, it will bring trouble to Mondstadt. Yes, I know. At this time, Qin also understood Fengxian's concerns. Lord Barbatos' strength has not yet recovered, and they need to buy time for Lord Barbatos. Immediately afterwards, Qin asked Wendy again, Lord Barbatos, is there anything I can do to help you regain your strength? I'll figure it out myself. You can take advantage of this time to clean up some monsters near Mondstadt City, which can also improve your strength. The stronger you are, the better it will be for Mondstadt. Wendy waved her hands repeatedly, Qin, I am very optimistic about you. You have the same qualities as Vanessa. I hope you can lead Mon to continue to move forward. For Qin, this sentence was like a slap in the face. Vanessa. That is the goal that Qin has been chasing, and it is her idol. Now Lord Barbatos says that he has the same qualities as Lord Vanessa, which is a great compliment for Qin. If Barbara knew about this, she would be so envious that she would be speechless, right? My stupid sister, I have already received praise from Lord Barbatos, what about you? Yes, Lord Barbatos, I will work hard. Qin said excitedly. But just after she finished saying this, Wendy and Mu Yang also disappeared in front of her. As expected of Lord Barbatos. Qin murmured, however, the aura on the other person seems a bit familiar, as if he has seen it somewhere. Forget it, let's study this chat group carefully first. She pinched her thigh. Sure enough, all this was not a dream. She looked at the group member list again, and her pupils couldn't help but shrink. Mu Yang, she didn't expect that he also is here. The familiar wind breath from before must be Mu Yang. No wonder I felt that the other person was so familiar before. If it were Mu Yang, then all this would make sense. This chat group is probably Mu Yang's trick too. Mu Yang knows Lord Barbatos, so will Lord Barbatos be here too? Soon, Qin set her sights on Wendy, and her heart couldn't help but tremble. She felt as if she had found the truth. It seems that this Wendy's clothes and style are very similar to the information passed down in the family. Do you want to go there and make sure? Soon, Qin eliminated this idea. Since Lord Barbatos didn't want to be exposed, she shouldn't bother him either. Sure enough, Qin joined the chat group. The first time Qin joined the chat group, Keqing found Ning Guang Feng Feng Huo and said, "If we continue to delay, we may miss the best opportunity." Ning Guang rubbed his temples. "Calm down, for us, this may not be a bad thing. We in Liu are divided into many forces, but don't forget that there are also many problems within Mondstadt. Moreover, the main force of the Westwind Knights has already gone on an expedition. Even now, if Qin wants to strengthen the Knights of the West Wind, it will be difficult to do so. But I still think this is too slow. It's better if Mondstadt comes in now, in case Inajima, Sumeru, or even Fontaine come in later. Wouldn't that be very troublesome?" Keqing gritted her teeth and said dissatisfied. But her words were met with Ning Guang's strange eyes. "What's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" Keqing felt the strange look in Ning Guang's eyes and asked suspiciously. "In other countries, Daozu is closed to the outside world. We won't talk about this. It is impossible for Mu Yang to go to Daozu for the time being. As for Sumeru, don't forget that the little lucky grass king has been missing for hundreds of years. Sumi has always been controlled by the teaching institute. They have their own arrogance and look down on the civilization and knowledge of other countries. Even if the Sumeru people get the chat group, they will not pay attention to the chat group and the knowledge of the other world. They think their country's knowledge is the best," Ning Guang said with a sneer. For Sumi, Ning Guang obviously looked down on him very much. But Ning Guang had to admit that the rainforest in Sumi was really rich in products. They, Liu, imported a large amount of food from Sumi every year. The relationship between the two parties cannot be too tense. Is that so? Keqing blinked. However, I still think we need to speed up the steps. This is true. Regarding this point, Ning Guang did not reject it. She looked solemnly and said, "We have to speed up our action." Mu Yang didn't know that Keqing and Ning Guang would become nervous because Qin joined the chat group. Even the plan that was originally planned to be gradual was accelerated a lot. However, he doesn't care. In Mu Yang's view, both Keqing and Ning Guang have already defeated Wang Jia, and it would be a shame if they failed at this time. And once things move in an uncontrollable direction, Morix will step forward to clean up the mess. But at that time, haha, people rule? Go to Timo's human rule. He would not trust in delegating power to such a group of people. Mu Yang slept happily at Qin's house. When he got up the next day, he found that there was a girl in a priest's uniform cleaning the living room. Personally, it seems that Qin has always known Wendy's identity. Before Teyvat called out Barbatos, Qin should also know it. Otherwise, she would not be able to act so nonsense based on her character. Moreover, Wendy, there are really too many flaws, and there seems to be quite a lot of Yao's description of Wendy. With Qin's ability, she can investigate one or two. Of course, this is just the author's own conjecture. Chapter 39. Who are you? Looking at Mu Yang, who came out of the guest room carefree, Barbara blinked and asked in surprise. There was a strange man in my sister's house. Who is he? Why here? I haven't seen him before. Could it be that he is my sister's boyfriend? After all, my sister will not just bring a man home casually. But I haven't heard that my sister is in love. Thinking of this, Barbara looked at Mu Yang with eyes full of scrutiny. Hello, I am Mu Yang, the consultant of Liu Keqing Ning Guang. This time I came to Mondstadt as a messenger. Captain Qin was worried that I would have no place to live, so she specially arranged for me to stay at her home. Mu Yang showed a spring-like smile to Barbara. Seeing that bright smile, even Barbara felt a little dazed. This guy has such a beautiful smile, he looks like Lord Barbatos, the god of wind. However, Barbara quickly calmed down her emotions. It turns out that you are a distinguished guest from Liu. Welcome to the Kingdom of Wind. May the god of wind protect you. Well, the god of wind did protect him and gave him the heart of God? You're up now. Have you had breakfast? Do you want me to prepare it for you? Barbara then asked quickly. As a good sister who wants to help Qin, now that she has found an opportunity, Barbara naturally wants to help Qin entertain the distinguished guests. I was planning to go out to eat. Miss Barbara, do you want to come along? Mu Yang asked in a gentle tone. There are a lot of people in Mondstadt recently, and the restaurants are packed with people. If you want to eat at this time, I'm afraid you have to wait for at least an hour. Why don't I make breakfast for you? Barbara gave a very considerate suggestion. Road. Mu Yang also suddenly realized at this time, indeed, the entire Mondstadt city is now at full capacity. If this continues, who knows if there will be a food shortage in the future. This is really embarrassing for Qin. Then I'll trouble you. Mu Yang didn't refuse. He was still very curious about Barbara, especially wanting to see how she would react after knowing Wendy's true identity. Okay, leave it to me. When Barbara heard Mu Yang's words, a bright smile appeared on her face. She hummed a song and walked into the kitchen to prepare breakfast for Mu Yang. She is indeed the #1 singer in Mondstadt. If you have the chance, you must teach Barbara to sing songs from her past life. Isn't this better than those celebrities who only know how to sing with their sound cards? Soon, Barbara came over with a breakfast. Sorry, my cooking skills are not very good, I hope you don't mind. Thank you. Mu Yang took the breakfast and took a look. Spicy vegetable braised pork? Is this a special one for Barbara? Are all Mondstadts so powerful? Eating such strong food so early in the morning? Immediately, he took a sip of the soup with a spoon and took a sip. Mu Yang's eyes couldn't help but light up. It tastes very good. It looks spicy, but it just stimulates the appetite. I like it very much. That's great if you like it. Barbara breathed a sigh of relief. She was really worried that the other party wouldn't like the smell. It's really delicious. Barbara, your cooking skills are very good. You will definitely become a good wife and mother in the future. Mu Yang praised while eating. Well, I'm a pastor. Barbara quickly reminded. She will serve Lord Barbados for the rest of her life. The priest is not a nun. Mu Yang waved his hand, and doesn't your Feng Shen value freedom? If he knew that your Westwind Church restricted pastors from getting married, he would definitely be very unhappy. This is not free at all. This. Barbara also hesitated for a moment. In Mondstadt, freedom is given by Lord Barbados. When rules and regulations confront freedom, even people like Barbara will fall into hesitation. Indeed, their Westwind Church should be the organization and institution that can best understand the spirit of Lord Barbados. If they cannot understand the spirit of freedom, how can other Mondlanders understand it? But why do I feel something strange? Looking at the troubled young priest, Mu Yang also chuckled. Sure enough, only magic can defeat magic. Freedom, democracy, equality, etc., will always be an undefeated slogan. The only one that can compare with them is female boxing. However, Mondstadt's freedom has gone too far. Of course, Qin is also unqualified as a leader. As a knight, perhaps no one is more qualified than Qin in Mondstadt now. She possesses almost all the virtues of a knight. But as a manager, Qin is still not qualified now. As an acting leader, Qin actually helped the residents of Mondstadt find cats. Is this to show that Qin is close to the people? Or does it seem that everyone in the Knights of the Westwind usually has nothing to do? If Dailuk were to be the acting leader, if someone asked Dailuk to find the cat, he would probably arrange for someone to arrest him. He suspected that the other party was a spy for some hostile force to infiltrate Mondstadt. Are you sure you're not kidding if you ask one of Mondstadt's highest-ranking people in charge to help catch the cat? Sometimes freedom requires flexibility, and so do rules and regulations. Similarly, freedom can also deteriorate. If it is misinterpreted by some people with ulterior motives, then the so-called freedom will also be harmful to Mond. Seeing Barbara like this, Mu Yang also gave a hint. Freedom is harmful to Mondstadt. Barbara was instantly dissatisfied. Although the other party is my sister's friend and a guest from Liu, if the other party says that there is a problem with Mond's freedom, then it is absolutely impossible for Barbara to accept it. Let me give you an example. If someone holds high the banner of freedom and protests at this time, they think they should not be imprisoned in Mondstadt. Seeing Barbara want to explain, Mu Yang quickly added, of course, this is no problem. But if these people, in order to vent their dissatisfaction, smash and loot the surrounding shops to vent their dissatisfaction. Do you think these people are really defending freedom? Barbara also fell silent after hearing this. But will such a thing really happen? It shouldn't be possible, right? Just thinking about some people and things she had met before, Barbara also fell silent. D. Chapter 40. Even a pastor like Barbara cannot naively believe that those people really uphold freedom of belief and do things that violate public order and good customs. They are just talking about freedom. These guys are the most hateful, Lord Barbados will punish them sooner or later. They are blaspheming. Barbara said through gritted teeth. Seeing Barbara's indignant look, Mu Yang thought of Wendy. If Barbara knew what Wendy was like at ordinary times, she probably wouldn't be able to say such things. However, thinking about what Wendy did for Mond, he felt that Wendy really didn't owe Mond anything. If it weren't for the 1,000-year-old music that Wendy is maintaining with her divine power, how could Mondstadt have such a good climate? Mondstadt will probably have a similar environment to Solstice Kingdom, a country full of ice and snow. This alone is enough to make the people living in Mondstadt feel grateful to Wendy. Soon, Mu Yang swallowed a spicy vegetable stew, and he looked satisfied. Although her cooking skills are not as good as those of professional chefs, the breakfast made by Barbara is delicious than others. If he had traveled through time, he would have had a lot of things to think about. She made breakfast for me. She has me in her heart. After Barbara took the dishes away from Mu Yang, while washing the dishes, she asked Mu Yang, "Mr. Mu Yang, do you have any work to do today?" "Ah, no, my work was almost finished yesterday. But for the next period of time, I may need to be in Mondstadt." Mu Yang shook his head slightly. "Then how about I take you as a tour guide to visit Mondstadt?" Barbara looked at Mu Yang expectantly and asked. Mu Yang glanced at Barbara slightly suspiciously. Are these girls in Mondstadt so easy to kidnap? Or was he so handsome that Barbara took a direct liking to him? "Then I'll trouble you, Miss Barbara," Mu Yang said in a gentle tone after getting rid of the almost impossible fantasies in his mind. In the angel's gift, Qin also saw Dailuk, who was not in very good condition. "I got a message from Charles early in the morning, asking Qin to go to the angel's gift, and Qin hurried over." Just seeing Dailuk, who was seriously injured, Qin's pupils couldn't help but shrink, and she quickly asked, "Senior, what's wrong with you?" Qin was also very confident in Dailuk's combat power. Otherwise, she would not have asked Dailuk to investigate the temple guarded by the Four Winds. It's just that Dailuk is now seriously injured, which makes Qin worried. There are too many monsters over there, and the Church of the Abyss has also set up an ambush there. Dailuk said seriously, "I was ambushed by them. In order to understand their internal situation, I stayed a little longer." When Qin heard this, she also became aware for a while. "I was afraid that Dailuk had already discovered the ambush." Just to find out more information, Dailuk broke into the trap and suffered a lot of injuries. Thinking of this, Qin's expression also became subtle. Lord Barbados had already told her these things yesterday. So, Dailuk's injury was in vain? "I'm going to call Barbara over now." Despite her young age, when it comes to treatment, there is no one in Mondstadt who is better than her. Qin said quickly to Dailuk. Although she herself is good at therapy, compared with Barbara, Qin feels that Barbara is better. Moreover, if Qin were to treat Dailuk on her own, Angel's gift would probably have to be renovated. "Barbara? Then I'll trouble you." Dailuk did not refuse after hearing this. As Mondstadt's strongest combat power at present, well, its controllable combat power, Dailuk also knew that now was not the time to force it. With Barbara's help, he should be able to recover faster. After hesitating for a while, Qin still said to Dailuk, "Senior, Lord Barbados appeared last night. He told me that there will be a traveler named Ying in the future, and she will be the one who saves Mondstadt." Hero. Wind God Barbados. Even though Dailuk didn't say anything on the surface, he was filled with envy and jealousy in his heart at this moment. You know, he is actually a Feng Shen chef secretly. He once spent a large sum of money to acquire items related to Barbados, but he was helpless to discover that these items were all fakes. "Wendy, if you want my used wine glasses, you can have as many as you want." But I didn't expect that Barbados would appear and meet Qin. At this time, Dailuk's heart was also complicated. "Damn it, why wasn't I the one who came to see you?" However, now that Barbados has appeared, Mon's situation shouldn't be a problem, right? Well, because of the war 500 years ago, Lord Barbatos was exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. He has just woken up now. After some hesitation, Qin still chose to trust Diluc and tell him about the matter. Diluc. After all, there was a time when Diluc seemed to be full of complaints against Barbatos. She doesn't want Lord Barbatos to be misunderstood. But having said that, if Barbatos-sama is really Wendy, wouldn't Senior meet Barbatos-sama every day? Thinking of Wendy's usual appearance, Qin covered her forehead, destroying her faith. Is that so? Diluc sighed with relief. Then what are you going to do now? Are you just waiting for that traveler to come to your door? I plan to eliminate some monsters outside first. Although this may not be a drop in the bucket, I still plan to do it. Then have Kelly make some bombs that even ordinary knights can use. Qin said in a sincere tone, as for the temple guarded by the Four Winds, I will still need your help, Senior. Kelly? Are you finally willing to use that fighting power? Diluc also knew about Kelly's fighting power. Diluc felt that if Kelly had allowed him to teach him, he would never have become the naughty child he is now. Instead, he would have become a hero who protects Mondstadt and become Mondstadt's most powerful combat force. But Qin wants to give Kelly a happy childhood and let Kelly do whatever she wants. Even if Kelly gets into trouble, Qin will be there to take care of her. Fortunately, Qin is not a stubborn person, and she finally wants to use this fighting power. D. Chapter 41. I just asked Kelly to make some bombs. I still know the importance of this. Qin reiterated her position. I have no intention of letting Kelly go into combat. I will also try my best to hide the truth about this matter. You can decide for yourself. Diluc snorted. After that, I will arrange for my people to pay attention to the traveler named Ying. I want to see who can be recognized by the god of wind. What a person! Poor Ying didn't know that she was already being noticed by a group of people even before she entered Mondstadt. This is a rhythm that makes even a tool person confused. Then I won't disturb your rest, Senior. Qin nodded slightly. I got the chat group yesterday and got tips from Keqing and Ning Guang. Qin also witnessed the history of the earth in Mu Yang's previous life. This made Qin understand a lot and discovered many hidden dangers in Mondstadt. This is all something Qin will deal with later. The most important thing now is to solve the problem of Teyvat and eliminate all the monsters in Mondstadt. With her current self, she would definitely not be able to do this, but now she has seen the possibility of success. Unlike Liu, if Qin wants to reform, he may encounter much less obstacles. As long as the content of these reforms is good for Mond, Qin can promote it. The two largest power organizations in Mondstadt are currently the Knights of the West Wind. Qin is currently the second in command here, and she is also the first in command of the expedition. She, the second in command, is the second in command. Moreover, Qin, the second in command, is now as famous as the first in command. The other one is the West Wind Church, and Qin's biological father is the general manager of the West Wind Church. Qin's family is one of the largest families in Mondstadt, so Qin's status in Mondstadt is still very high. At least it's really hard to find a force in Mondstadt that can compete with Qin's background. As long as Qin promotes the reform step by step and is not too radical, her reform may be much smoother than Liu's. Of course, Mondstadt also has many problems. For example, the people of Mondstadt pursue freedom and have a loose personality. If Qin's policies have a certain impact on them, Qin may also be scolded by them. If she doesn't do it right, she may even be reduced to surpassing the Lawrence family. Situation. After all, back then, didn't the demon god of tornado Diakorapian use his divine power to maintain the wind wall to protect the people of Mondstadt, so that they could survive and not freeze to death? As a result, they felt that DK Lapian hindered their freedom. They wanted freedom and thought that DK Lapian was a tyrant. There is a saying that if Wendy had not used her magical power to blow away the ice and snow, people like Mondstadt would have been frozen to extinction long ago. In the final analysis, their tempers are too good, and it is also because the continent of Teyvat has a tradition of demon gods loving their loved ones. Most demon gods are very kind to their people, and they even treat their people heartily. Just like Dirk Apian, who was called a tyrant by Mondstadt, was he really bad for the people of Mondstadt? In the final analysis, Deel Rapian was just trying to protect the people of Mondstadt. As a result, the good intentions were directly treated as a donkey's liver and lungs. According to the information obtained by Mu Yang, Diakorapian may have taken the initiative to die on his own initiative. After all, Barbados, who was only a wind elf at that time, could be Dicarapian's opponent? Mu Yang, where are you and Barbara? Mu Yang followed Barbara walking in Mondstadt. From time to time, people came to say hello to Barbara. Mu Yang liked this feeling very much. If the other person was his girlfriend, if so, he might even feel a hint of romance. However, at this time, Qin started at Mu Yang in the chat group. Mu Yang also told Qin in the chat group about Barbara before, but he did not expect that Qin would come to interrupt his date with Barbara at this time. Well, we are at the Wind God statue now. Mu Yang said directly. Okay, please tell Barbara and ask her to go to Angel's Gift to treat Senior Diluc. Please. Qin also said quickly after hearing this. Mu Yang, Diluc? She is injured? Okay, I understand. Mu Yang looked at Barbara, who was still chatting with him about Barbados's great achievements, and said, by the way, Barbara, I'm afraid we need to go to Angel's Gift. Ah? Mr. Mu Yang, do you also like drinking? Barbara was stunned for a moment, and a trace of disappointment flashed in her eyes. Does even a person like Mr. Mu Yang like drinking? No, there is something you need to do. Mr. Diluc is injured and needs your treatment. Mu Yang shook his head slightly. He is actually not very interested in drinking or anything like that. The apple stuffed by Angel's Gift is actually pretty good. Mr. Diluc? Okay, let's go there right now. Barbara also became curious at this time. As Qin's little fangirl, Barbara is still very clear about Qin's affairs. That Diluc was his sister's competitor. The two have similar identities and backgrounds, and their current strengths seem to be similar. Diluc joined the Knights of the West Wind a few years before Qin, and for a long time, Diluc was ahead of Qin. He became the captain of the Knights of the West Wind before Qin. According to my sister, if it hadn't been for that incident, the person who became the acting leader at this time might not have been her, but Diluc. As a result, Diluc was injured now, which made Barbara nervous. Did Mond encounter any danger again? The city of Mondstadt is very big. Even if Mu Yang and Barbara ran, it still took them half an hour to reach Angel's Gift. Seeing the injured Diluc, Barbara's heart sank. As a doctor, Barbara could tell that Diluc's injuries were serious. Is the situation now so dangerous? Even a powerful being like Diluc suffered such serious injuries. What about my sister? At this time, Barbara also began to resent her own weakness. If possible, she wanted to become stronger. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you. Chapter 42. Are you here? Diluc glanced at Barbara and then at Mu Yang, and said calmly. It seems you were ambushed. Mu Yang found a place to sit down and asked. Hearing Mu Yang's straightforward inquiry, Diluc did not hide anything and nodded slightly and said, well, the people of the Abyss Order are very well prepared. Of course, if it was me, Qin, Yura, and Kaya who was holding us back yesterday, we should be able to solve it. When Kaya was mentioned, Diluc's face was full of disgust. However, a trace of worry flashed in his eyes. That guy is a descendant of the Kanria people. At this time, Kaya, how will you choose? This can be considered good news. Mu Yang spread his hands, at least there is a chance to face it. However, there is no guarantee that the people from the Abyss Order will not increase the strength of the trap in the future. Diluc's expression darkened, this was also what he was worried about. I just don't know what strength and abilities the traveler favored by the wind god Barbados has. At this time, Barbara also came to Diluc's side and began to treat Diluc. Seeing Barbara's methods, Mu Yang's eyes also lit up. He was worthy of being a Monzioxiohe. Then he became a little guilty, but Barbara's milk supply was still very sufficient. Mu Yang could also clearly feel that Diluc's injury was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even Mu Yang has to admit that the internal force system he has created is still far from the elemental force system. There is no need to completely abandon the Eye of God system, even though it is something passed down from the predecessor Tian Li. And those original gods will become the nourishment of this world after death, not even their souls will stay, and become part of the protective barrier of the Teyvat continent. This may seem cruel, but it doesn't seem impossible if people turn into nutrients after death. After all, while they were alive, they also gained power through loans that ordinary people did not have. As long as Mu Yang's strength improves, he will not need these holders of the Eye of God as the nourishment of the world. Many elements of elemental power cannot be replaced by internal power. Just like Barbara's current method of treating Diluc, it is definitely not something that can be done by internal force. The internal force system is now more suitable for some ordinary people. After all, not everyone can obtain the Eye of God. It is impossible for Mu Yang to give out God's eyes to people from time to time. After all, it is of no benefit to him. Oh, by the way, he will not give out God's eyes to the Winter Kingdom in the future. Let them resist the law of heaven. Even though the natural law being resisted was not the natural law that he now has, Mu Yang still felt that he was offended. However, can I also deduce some special spells? I have no shortage of vision. And with my current ability to deduce, I can deduce many things if I want to. As for those who are too advanced, we have to wait until their strength is further advanced. It's better, Mr. Diluc, but you can't participate in the battle for the time being. You need to recuperate for 2 to 3 days. After a moment, Barbara let go of her hand and warned Diluc. Well. Thank you. Diluc nodded slightly and looked at Mu Yang again. I won't send it to you. If you want to have something to drink or eat, you can order food below and the entire bill will be borne by me. Mu Yang curled his lips when he heard this. He is really rich. However, Mu Yang also knew that Diluc didn't have any malicious intentions, nor did he want to use money to humiliate people, he just didn't want others to see his weak side. He just wanted to be alone and lick his wounds. Let's go. Mu Yang stood up and waved to Barbara. Barbara quickly followed, and the two of them did not eat at Angel's Gift, although the food here was indeed very good. However, Barbara said that she would take Mu Yang to her favorite restaurant, the Deer Hunter. Mu Yang did not refuse. He was also very interested in the famous Deer Hunter restaurant. Apart from Angel's Gift, which is not a restaurant, the Deer Hunter restaurant is indeed the most famous restaurant in Mondstadt. Suddenly, Mu Yang felt an intermittent force coming into his body. He looked outside Mondstadt with a smile on his face. Qin's side has also started to take action. There are indeed too many monsters outside Mondstadt, and some of them need to be dealt with. But Qin shouldn't be in danger, right? Mondstadt's situation is much more complicated than Liu's. Wasn't Keqing in danger back then? Qin's strength is good, but if she is not careful, she will be in danger. But soon, Mu Yang's face showed a playful smile again, and that Wendy guy also started to take action, and he still followed Qin's side. Why are you here? After Qin easily killed 2 cheating flowers with his west wind swordsmanship, he also looked at the green figure not far away and asked with a strange expression. Hey, as a citizen of Mondstadt, isn't it the right thing to come out to deal with these monsters at this time? Wendy touched the back of her head. Besides, I am also a member of the chat group, and the points will also be useful to me. I'm guaranteed to earn points by following you, Captain Qin. Qin took a deep look at Wendy, and she could almost conclude that the guy in front of her was Barbatos, the god of wind. There are records in the family collection that Lord Barbatos is a free and uninhibited person, and hey is his mantra. As for other bards, no one likes to say hey, Wendy is an exception. At the same time, Qin also knew why Wendy was following her, and wanting to gain points was just an excuse. Are you worried about yourself? No one can be deceived by the pure wind element aura on your body. Among the people I have met, Mu Yang is probably the only one who can rival you. But having said that, as a visitor from another world, how did Mu Yang obtain such a pure wind element? Qin felt deeply puzzled by this matter, and she felt very powerful. Chapter 43. Have you studied the basic internal strength? Qin asked Wendy without exposing her. I've researched a little bit, but it's not very suitable for me. Maybe my talent is not good. Wendy said that she is an elemental creature. Is it possible that she still needs to practice internal strength? Then wouldn't he become an internal creature? What is going on? How could it not be suitable? You simply don't like it, right? However, Qin also knows that this basic internal strength only has a bonus on ordinary people and the original gods with divine eyes, but if it is on gods, I am afraid it will not have any effect. After all, I have said it myself, this is just basic internal strength, so it is understandable. The 100 points I earned before gave me a year of internal strength. I feel that my strength has grown to a certain extent. If it can be promoted in Mondstadt, it will definitely be of great help to Mondstadt. Qin said to Wendy in a serious tone. Wendy snorted, why are you telling me this? Even if you have to practice this kind of thing, it will take a long time to be effective, right? Not everyone has the bonus of a chat group. Listening to Wendy's words, Qin also calmed down. Indeed, without a chat group, it is not easy to quickly develop basic internal skills. No wonder Keqing and Ningguang have not promoted their basic internal skills yet. She and Ningguang are also good friends. After joining the chat group, Ningguang also introduced a lot to herself and even provided herself with a lot of suggestions. Qin knows some of Ningguang's intentions, and she herself is happy to see them succeed. Now Mond also needs Liu's help, and even the two sides can become allies in name only. It's true that I'm getting too anxious, but there are more monsters outside than we thought. Mr. Wendy, we won't be too relaxed next time. Qin said softly. Wendy did not refuse. If it were in the past, he might try his best to fish at this time, but now Wendy has no intention to fish. The way to relieve wear and tear and increase divine power is right in front of him. Even Wendy cannot refuse such a temptation. Moreover, because of these monsters, the entire Mondstadt is now in crisis. However, he cannot arouse the vigilance of the Abyss cult yet. He cannot use divine power on a large scale to destroy these monsters, so he should wait a little longer. Captain Qin, I have a trick called Elemental Battle, which can form an eye of the storm to absorb all the nearby monsters. How about you be responsible for destroying them then? Considering that there were too many monsters outside, Wendy also decided to make a little effort. A little more strength. Monsters and so on, let's eliminate them as soon as possible after Teyvat's incident is over. Otherwise, who knows if Liu will ask them to deal with the monsters. Although Liu was willing to help, they and Mondstadt should also be happy, but Wendy felt a little uncomfortable with the feeling that the other party came to her home to collect points. Then it's up to you. Qin agreed immediately. Then, Qin understood why Barbatos was the god of wind. Even though Wendy had already restrained her strength very much, when Wendy absorbed all the nearby monsters into the eye of the wind, but Qin herself was not affected at all, Qin felt a burst of emotion in her heart. She was worthy of Barbato. Lord Si. Their control over the wind element is beyond their comparison. With Wendy's field control, Qin also transformed into a warrior, easily harvesting the lives of these monsters. Wendy and Qin are constantly harvesting monsters, but at their current harvesting speed, it will be almost impossible to wipe out all the monsters in Mondstadt within a year and a half. Moreover, as long as Mondstadt's ley lines continue to be disordered, monsters will continue to be born. The speed at which they eliminate monsters may not be as fast as the speed at which monsters are generated. On the other side, Mu Yang and Barbara came to the Deer Hunter restaurant. Mu Yang also had the braised pork with vegetables in white sauce and the famous fried pork with carrots in honey sauce. Especially the fried pork with honey sauce and carrots, it tastes really good. Anyway, Mu Yang feels really delicious. It was just that in the originally relaxed and pleasant dining atmosphere, Barbara was eating and her mood became depressed. Mu Yang, do you think I am useless? Sister, Captain Qin is like this every day. She's busy, but I can't even help her at all. Are you sure you didn't help her? What did you say about Diluc before? After Mu Yang ate a piece of meat, he looked at Barbara suspiciously. I know that as a doctor, I am qualified. I used to think that as long as I provide protection for Qin and the others, it will be fine. After all, I'm good at healing, I'm born with it, but I'm not good at fighting, which is what my sister is good at. Barbara said with some sadness, actually, I envy my sister. My sister is not only good at fighting, she is also good at healing. My sister can treat Mr. Diluc's injury even without me. She was just used to asking me to treat the injured, which also satisfied my pride. Mu Yang recalled Qin's open-up mode, and said that Qin's milk supply was indeed sufficient. Anyway, he didn't have other characters who could directly fill up the health of all characters like Qin. Maybe some characters can do it, but he didn't. Mu Yang would definitely not believe that Qin was not good at healing. There is an old saying in Liu, there is an order of learning, and there is a specialization in the arts. Maybe she thinks you can do better than her in this aspect. Mu Yang hesitated for a while, but still stretched out his hand to caress her. Barbara's head comforted. But other Zephyr Knights can help fight, but I can't do anything. Barbara didn't seem to notice Mu Yang's behavior, and continued sadly, it would be great if I also had the talent for fighting. That way I can fight alongside my sister. Don't mention it, Wendy is really powerful in the big world. Her ability to absorb monsters and control is unmatched by other characters. In the early days, Wendy was a human rights card. It's just that Wendy was too powerful and had to be reduced. Otherwise, as long as Wendy is a big one, and the subsequent characters only need to stand and deal output. So later on, Wendy became more and more unavailable, and Feng Shen could no longer absorb it. However, it cannot be said that Wendy is incapable because of her current lack of power in the abyss. Chapter 44. Barbara looked at the eye of the water elemental god on her waist, and said bitterly, "Many times, I am extremely dissatisfied with my eye of god, even though I am extremely devoted to Lord Barbatos. Why is my eye of god not of the wind element, but of the water element? Doesn't this seem to have anything to do with the eye of god?" Mu Yang was also stunned. "I haven't heard that the eye of the water god is not suitable for fighting. As far as I know, the 11th executive officer of the Fools, Dadalia, is the eye of the water elemental god, and the head of the Kamisato family of Inajima Shrine, Kamisato Ayato, is the eye of the water elemental god. In terms of fighting ability, they are no weaker than your sister. It's just that I received the attention of the water god, not Lord Barbatos," Barbara said sadly. Mu Yang looked at the sky silently. "It seems that this matter is really not Barbatos' fault. It seems like it's me, it's my ex's fault. It's not even the fault of his predecessor, it's the fault of Teyvat's mechanism. Fanes himself usually doesn't have time to pay attention to these things, okay? The mechanism of Sky Island will give you the Eye of God that it thinks is suitable for you. Have you ever considered that the legend of the Eye of God is actually wrong?" Mu Yang asked Barbara cautiously. "Hey!" Barbara looked at Mu Yang suspiciously. "There should be a more or less tacit understanding among the 7 gods, right? If each of them interferes randomly in the affairs of other countries, I am afraid that it will cause dissatisfaction on the other side. At present, except for the Solstice Kingdom, it seems that no one from any country will mess around in other countries, right? If the Eye of God was issued by the 7 gods, wouldn't it prove that the gods of other countries are watching each country all the time?" Mu Yang said with a chuckle. "This." Barbara blinked. It seemed that what Mu Yang said made sense. But this goes against the legend. Even Barbara doesn't know whether to believe Mu Yang's words or the legend of Teyvat at this time. Furthermore, it is said that there are higher beings above the 7 gods. Then, Mu Yang said with meaning. Barbara was shocked when she heard this. She understood Mu Yang's subtext, that is, the Eye of God was not awarded by the 7 gods, but by Sky Island. The legend about Sky Island is also spread in Mondstadt. Lady Vanessa finally went to Sky Island. I just don't know what happened to Lady Vanessa after going to Sky Island. Did it turn out that the Eye of God was distributed by Sky Island? But why does Mu Yang know this? Isn't he a traveler from another world? Perhaps, when Mu Yang came from another world, he might have seen Sky Island. Besides, you don't need to feel inferior. Your fighting talent may not be as good as your sister's, but you can also help your sister in other ways. Mu Yang then continued to comfort her. What should I do? Barbara looked at Mu Yang expectantly. Then reveal, since you are not as good as your sister in terms of combat talent, why don't you look at it from another perspective? Mu Yang coughed lightly, facing such a pure praying priest. Mu Yang really can't say anything like tiger or wolf. From what angle? Barbara looked at Mu Yang curiously, but I don't know much. I can only pray and do some housework to the best of my ability. I'm pretty good at treatment. Other than that, I don't seem to know much. Only singing. But don't forget, can pure singing heal the soul? Mu Yang stared at Barbara and said, now the security in Mondstadt seems to be getting worse day by day, and everyone has begun to complain about their current life. People's hearts are becoming more and more impetuous day by day. Indeed. I feel it too, but there is nothing we can do. The Church of the West Wind has begun to cooperate with the Knights of the West Wind to maintain order and distribute food, drinking water, and other daily necessities to the people of Mondstadt. However, as time goes on, they still start to become anxious. But my sister and the others are unable to deal with so many monsters for the time being. Unless Lord Barbatos takes action, it will be really difficult to deal with so many monsters. Barbara said worriedly. Mu Yang also nodded slightly when he heard this. In his previous life, he had also read a lot of fanfiction, rendering the Westwind Church as dark as the medieval church, thinking that they were an obstacle to the Westwind Knights, or that these guys only knew enjoyment or something. But after coming to Mondstadt, Mu Yang discovered that the Westwind Church was probably the purest organization in Mondstadt. The Knights of the West Wind also have many black sheep in high positions, just like the original Inspector General Ilk, who was a degenerate person. Within the West Wind Knights, there are actually quite a few people like Ilk. Many forces and families in Mondstadt also like to send people to the Knights of the West Wind. Who gives the Knights of the West Wind great power? Although the West Wind Church also has a lot of power and fame, if you want to become a senior member of the church, you need to be selected at all levels. Moreover, they also have a special supervision system internally. Many orphans are taken in and trained by them, specifically for use to supervise the people within the West Wind Church and the major forces in Mondstadt. I would like to ask, what would a devout pastor like Barbara do if he found out that other people in the West Wind Church did not believe in Barbados? And if she hadn't been born in such an environment, would Barbara have been so devout in her faith in Barbados? There may be some people in the West Wind Church who are not so pure in their belief in Barbados, and there are even nuns who can't even remember Barbados's name. But for Mondstadt, they are all very pure, and they are considered the best in Mondstadt. Organized. After knowing this, Mu Yang was actually a little disappointed. Originally, he thought that after coming to Mondstadt, he needed to work out some things, and then support Qin to carry out reforms. However, the West Wind Church disagreed and came out to sing the opposite tune. He then invited Barbados to give Mondstadt a bloodbath. This is the result? The problem of the West Wind Church is very small. Most of the knights in the West Wind Knights were taken away by the Grand Leader. The remaining knights are considered to be Qin's people. Isn't this asking Qin to cultivate cronies? This has almost become Qin's utterance. Of course, Mondstadt's problem is also engraved in his bones. There are many families here, the old forces are still very powerful, and they are too lazy. Chapter 45. Mondstadt's situation is very special. Mu Yang originally thought that Mondstadt would encounter much more trouble than Liu if it wanted to reform. After all, Mondstadt's giant baby. But because of what happened to the Lawrence family, Mond has already made some reforms. Both the West Wind Church and the West Wind Knights are actually trying to prevent the emergence of the next Lawrence family. With the power that Qin can borrow now, as long as Qin does not carry out large-scale reforms, and the Grand Leader Falga has taken away a large number of West Wind Knights, and he also has the consideration to give up Qin, there is almost no obstacle for Qin now. If there is a conspiracy theory, could it be that Ilk deliberately kicked Dailuk out of the Knights of the West Wind so that Qin could take over? After all, Dailuk was the youngest captain in the history of the Knights of the West Wind at that time. If we really talk about it, the biggest obstacle now is not what obstacles Qin will encounter, but whether Qin will do this. Qin only has the determination to be a knight, but not the consciousness to become a king. There is absolutely no problem for Qin to be the second boss, but the current Qin is not mature enough and is too indecisive. Will she grow from what happened this time? Mu Yang looked towards the location of Qin and Wendy outside the city. As for Barbara, singing is the most healing thing. Now Mu Yang began to teach Barbara Blue Star's songs. In the evening, Mu Yang was preparing to go to sleep early. A breeze blew by, and Wendy's figure appeared on the sofa not far from Mu Yang. He held a bottle of wine in his hand and said, "My friend, this time, I came here with wine. Do you want to taste the wine I buried before I fell asleep? Wine from hundreds of years ago?" Before traveling through time, Mu Yang would still be worried about whether this would break his stomach, but if it was the wine Wendy brought out, it seemed worth looking forward to. Mu Yang found a wine glass from the kitchen and placed it in front of the two of them. He asked Wendy, "How do you feel?" "Very good, Qin is a very smart person, she should have guessed my identity." After knowing that I didn't want to be exposed, we both maintained a tacit understanding. Wendy poured a glass of wine for each of them, took a sip happily, and then said, "But do you think she is really suitable to lead Mondstadt forward?" Mu Yang also took a sip. Not to mention, the taste was really good, much better than the Wool Yanjai and Mao Tai he drank in his previous life. It should be said that it is indeed a country of wine. If ordinary drinks are so delicious, then Mu Yang can understand why the people of Mondstadt like wine so much. What's wrong? Do you have any other opinions? Wendy tilted her head and asked Mu Yang. He himself was very optimistic about Qin. Qianfeng had told him about Qin. Wendy knew almost everything that this girl had experienced since she was a child. Wendy feels that no one is more suitable for Mondstadt now than Qin. Just like Vanessa back then, with Qin's existence, Mond doesn't need to worry about himself in the next few decades, which is great. You should have seen that Mondstadt actually has a lot of disadvantages. Many families also colluded with the fools, and Mondstadt became the new camp for the fools. When Mu Yang said this, Wendy's face darkened visibly. This matter really made Wendy very concerned. Yes, he was indeed asleep, but if something big happened, he would naturally wake up directly. As for the battle with the ice god, haha, do you really think that Barbatos is made of clay? As long as Bing Shen didn't have a brain problem, he wouldn't have made such a decision, and their relationship is still quite good. Secretly, Wendy had already decided to support Ice God's plan. But some people in the fools are a little too arrogant, and there seem to be too many traitors in Mondstadt. From Wendy's point of view, that is definitely a shame and a great humiliation. If it is in peacetime, no one is more suitable to be the leader of the knights than Qin, but if there is to be reform, I am more optimistic about Dailuk and let him become the leader of the West Wind Knights, and Qin will become the deputy leader to assist Dailuk. Luke. Mu Yang suggested, staring at Wendy. This is also Mu Yang's biggest insight after visiting Mondstadt this day. Of course, he doesn't have any prejudice against Qin, after all, Qin is still his wife. Mu Yang himself also wants to invest in the company. When Wendy heard Mu Yang mention Dailuk, she shook her head slightly and said, Dailuk. I admit that he is a good person. If the country is about to be destroyed, he will be a leader who can turn the tide. But now Mondstadt needs a leader like Qin, who is like an idol in the minds of countless people. People's recognition of Dailuk is not as high as that of Qin, even though Dailuk is very good, even better than Qin in some aspects. But it was precisely because of his excellence that he was unable to mingle with the people of Mondstadt. If Dailuk becomes the leader of the Knights of the West Wind, if he carries out reforms, he may be much more radical than Qin, and things that can be handled easily will become complicated. After a pause, Wendy continued, of course, I actually have a better position waiting for Dailuk here. Oh. Mu Yang raised his eyebrows and looked at Wendy curiously. Is it possible that Dailuk is being portrayed as a Barbados wine supplier and the other party is a red-top businessman? There is an organization within the West Wind Church that specializes in monitoring and arresting traitors. What do you think about letting Dailuk serve as the leader of this organization? Wendy said and sighed again, it's just him and some people from the northern continent. The intelligence agencies are too closely connected. I don't think he will betray Mondstadt, but there's no guarantee that others won't make a fuss about it, so I'm still hesitant. I can't show up and just push Dailuk into this position, right? Mu Yang was silent for a while after hearing this. At this time, he fully realized the difference between Wendy and Zhongli. For these things, if Zhongli feels it is appropriate, he will make arrangements directly after inspecting them. But Wendy pushed the other person to move forward in a certain direction, making them become what she expected step by step. Vanessa was like this at the beginning, and so is Qin now. Of course, Wendy is not plotting against them, but hopes that they will achieve it through their own efforts. What about places like Inajima, Sumuru, and Fontaine? The movie seems to be about an offline monarchy, and Ina's wife's suffering is still caused by her. Nahida is still trapped on Sumi's side. The best one is Funina. With Navi's Udge right, Funina is really relaxed with such a perfect matchmaker. Chapter 46. Of course, in Mu Yang's opinion, as a god, it is better not to cause trouble to the country. For people like Shadow Treasure, there is a saying that they are indeed somewhat unqualified as gods. But there is no doubt that she wants to protect Rice Wife and the people of Rice Wife. When it comes to running the country, I am far inferior to you, you have the final say. Thinking of this, Mu Yang also spread his hands and said. Although Wendy is fishing and paddling, she is still the god who has governed Mondstadt for thousands of years. In addition, after understanding the history of Blue Star, Mu Yang feels that he does not need to discuss how to govern the country with Wendy. Problem. This guy is just lazy, not incompetent. Let's go, it's time for us to help Dailuk grow. Wendy also extended an invitation to Mu Yang after hearing this. Well, aren't you afraid that he will recognize you directly? Mu Yang looked at Wendy and asked doubtfully. This. In fact, I suspect that Dailuk had already suspected it a long time ago. Wendy laughed playfully, there are so many bards in Mondstadt. Even if I am the best bard in Mondstadt, Dailuk cannot always reserve a place for me. As long as I go there, there will be a place. Moreover, when I occasionally owe money, Mr. Dailuk will turn a blind eye. This. Mu Yang also silently looked at the sky after hearing this, wondering if your appearance has remained unchanged for thousands of years, making you so easy to recognize. Also, do you want to bring Diluc into the group because you want to be able to owe more wine money in the future? After a moment of silence, Mu Yang asked helplessly, you guys, do you want to trade points with Diluc for a beautiful bar? Is this still possible? This is really great. Unexpectedly, Wendy became more and more excited after hearing this. Wouldn't this allow me to drink a steady stream of fine wine in the future? Diluc craves power, there's no doubt about it. But now Diluc has no strength to take revenge, the second executive doctor of the fools. Even if you put aside the whole bunch of fools, the doctor's strength, which is comparable to that of a demon, cannot be compared to Diluc. But things are different now. Points can not only help improve internal strength, but can also improve physical fitness. If you want to reach a demon-level physique, the number of points may be an astronomical figure. And for Wendy, isn't it easy to earn points? He and Captain Qin went out to swipe a wave of monsters before, and he got a lot of points. Then he used his power to destroy some of the monsters, not many, only about 10,000 points. The Abyss Order would not even notice the disappearance of such a small amount of monsters. Moreover, the Abyss cult is trying to use the power of the Abyss to pollute itself through the 7 heavenly god statue, causing itself to fall into the Abyss. Through the purification ability of the chat group, isn't this a steady stream of points for itself? You know, in order to prevent Mondstadt's earth veins from being sealed by the 7 heavenly gods, Barbatos worked hard to absorb the power of the Abyss. Thinking of those who came to the Abyss religion, they were already very happy at this moment, thinking that they, the god of wind, had no choice but to rely on this to solve the problem of the earth's veins being contaminated by the power of the Abyss. Oh, my dear friends from the Abyss, hurry up and pollute me, the god of wind. As long as you pollute the wind god, one of the 7 rulers of the world, then Mondstadt will be yours, and even Teyvat will be infected by you in a short time. Come on. Ori, give it. If one day in the future, Barbatos, the god of wind, can grow to the level of the maintainer of heavenly principles, it will all be thanks to the sponsorship of Brother Abyss. He will definitely write a good poem to express his gratitude to them. Mu Yang covered his forehead speechlessly. Sure enough, if Barbatos could always be normal, then he wouldn't be Barbatos. On the top floor of Angel's Gift, even though it was late at night, Diluc was still sitting on the table reading letters. There was no other way, he had too much information to collect. Except for Qin and Eula, all the guys in the Knights of the West Wind are useless. Even a loser like Kaya can become the cavalry captain of the Knights of the West Wind, which is simply hopeless. Instead of pinning your hopes on them, why not do it yourself? It's just that the Abyss Order is stronger than expected, and Barbatos seems to be too weak to take action. Can they only pin their hopes on the traveler? This is not what Diluc wants. Mondstadt should be saved by the people of Mondstadt. At least this time, the people of Mondstadt have to stand up for themselves. Who? Suddenly, he felt the movement behind him, and Diluc was also startled. You know, he had not heard any movement before. If the other party hadn't deliberately made any noise, it would have been difficult for him to detect the other party's aura. My dear believer, do you want the power to change all this? Suddenly, a slightly familiar voice came from not far away. Diluc took a closer look and his pupils couldn't help but shrink. With such an outfit, he must be Barbatos, the god of wind, right? However, with this face shape and this voice, Wendy, you don't even bother to pretend, right? You owe me so much wine money, is it possible that you want to take advantage of this and not pay back the money? No wonder Qin's expression seemed a little subtle when she came to talk to me about Barbatos today. I guess she guessed a thing or two. Sure enough, such a wind god is a piece of shit. Mon still wants them to protect it themselves. However, after thinking of Wendy's previous words, Diluc also asked hesitantly, as far as I know, Feng Shen, your power seems to have been exhausted, right? Diluc still agrees with this statement. Although Wendy seemed very unreliable, the other party did appear after the wind demon dragon appeared. As far as the other party's urine is concerned, if he were awake, he would definitely come and drink. This. Wendy blinked awkwardly. Did so many people know about her depletion of power? Oops, how embarrassing is this? From now on I can paddle openly. Young man, do you want to know the meaning of life? Do you want to truly live? Do you want to gain the power to protect Mondstadt? Do you want to take revenge on the doctor? Mu Yang on the side saw that he seemed to be ignored again, his eyes rolled. He turned around and said suddenly. Chapter 47. Mu Yang also felt helpless in his heart. He was obviously a god, so why did others notice Wendy first instead of himself when he appeared as a saint? Is it because your pomp is not big enough? Maybe I need to get a special effect for my appearance in the future, otherwise, others won't notice me. Obviously he is also the boss of Wendy and the others now. With a slight snort, Mu Yang directly pulled Diluc into the group, and then disappeared directly. Before leaving, he took away the famous wine in Diluc's wine cabinet. Now he was very unhappy. He wanted to drink something. Make amends for yourself. Ding, congratulations to Diluc for joining the chat group. Qin, senior. Welcome, welcome. Wendy, hey, Mr. Diluc. Welcome to join the chat group. And do you want points? You can exchange them for wine. Ning Guang, Diluc from the Monchen Winery. Welcome to join us. Diluc was startled by the information that suddenly appeared in his mind, but he quickly understood the information and was shocked. He now has the power to purify the abyss. Who was that person just now? As soon as the other person left, he entered this chat group. This may have something to do with the other person. Even Barbados, the god of wind, cannot give anyone the power to purify the abyss. Moreover, there are ways to make yourself stronger in the chat group, which only require points. Didn't Wendy say before that you can exchange wine for points? Just kidding, the last thing Diluc lacks is wine. Redeem them all. He, Diluc, wants to become stronger. Sooner or later, he will enter the Winter Kingdom and chop off the doctor's head. Etc. Diluc looked at several names in the chat group. Wendy? Well, this is the Barbados in front of you. Qin also joined here. Well, it seems that she can also become stronger. Keqing and Ningguang are the 7 stars on the other side of Liu. Zhongli? He also has a good reputation in Liu. He is a guest of the Rebirth Hall. He has a high status in both black and white circles. He is suspected to be an immortal. Except for Mu Yang, I have never heard of anyone else. Mu Yang? It seems that I still underestimated him before. With this power, why don't we deal with the abyss? Diluc asked Wendy suspiciously. Wendy spread her hands. There is nothing we can do about it. The abyss is far more terrifying than you think. The disaster 500 years ago almost destroyed the entire continent of Teyvat, and even the 7 gods were left alone. 2. I also fell into a deep sleep. Diluc's pupils couldn't help but shrink. Even he didn't know about such a secret. The other god should be Morux, the rock god next door. But, hasn't General Inazuma's thunder and lightning been changed? Can Barbados lie? No, I think there is a secret in it that I don't know about. So this power needs to be hidden? We need time to develop, and the traveler who has not yet come to Mondstadt is the cover you chose? She also has the power to purify the filth of the abyss. And her possession of this power was expected by the abyss. Diluc is a very smart person, and he is good at collecting and organizing intelligence. Based on the information he currently has, Diluc has made some guesses. You can also say that, after all, we are still very weak, and my divine power is too scattered. If I show too much strength, it will not be good for Mondstadt. Moreover, Mondstadt now also needs a battle to prove itself, just like it did hundreds of years ago. Wendy spread her hands and said helplessly. The divine power is too dispersed, the wind god disperses all the power. Soon Diluc thought of some legends again, and his eyes flickered for a moment, and then he looked at Wendy with soft eyes. Although this guy was fishing in water and did not dare to do business, the other party seemed to be a what a god. Barbados has done what he should do, so what happens next is up to them. In addition to purifying the filth of the abyss, you can also earn points by killing monsters. According to my information, you and Qin are hunting monsters outside today. How about joining me tomorrow? Diluc pondered for a moment and asked again. Although he doesn't like working with other people, preferring to act alone. But now the situation outside is a bit bad, and even Diluc has to choose to cooperate with Wendy and the others. I don't have any objections here. As soon as Wendy finished saying this, she noticed that her identity had been seen through by the other party, and said helplessly, I said, even if you know my identity, don't click directly. Is it okay? How can I still mess around in the future? Immediately afterwards, Wendy changed into her usual self and sighed softly, hey, This look suits me better. You should also be careful not to expose my identity. Diluc chuckled, I don't have a problem here, and even if I know your identity, I won't give you a bottle of wine unless you exchange it for points. But you have to be careful, those guys from the Fools are collecting things about you. Maybe they have something else in mind for you. I know, forget it, let's talk about this later. Wendy thought of the Ice Queen and the lady, and sighed softly. The previous tacit understanding is gone. I'm sorry to the Bing Shen, this Tianli is so popular now, he is the future of this world. But having said that, does Ice God still have any reason to oppose Tianli? Judging from Mu Yang's appearance, it seems that he has no intention of restricting human development. Just thinking of the group of lunatics in the Fools, Wendy sighed silently again. According to the information sent through Qianfeng, there are many lunatics in the Fools. By the way, the Ice God should be in the same situation as himself now, or even in a more serious situation than himself, and needs to fall into a deep sleep, right? Does she know these things or not? As for the lady, Wendy originally planned to half-heartedly give her God's heart to make up for her guilt towards the lady. Maybe she didn't feel sorry for Rosalind, but the other party saved Mondstadt, but was betrayed and abandoned by Mondstadt. As the God of Wind, it was need to be responsible. Don't worry, we will work hard to become stronger, and we will never let things like the Black Fire case happen again. The Mondstadt won't let you down. Seeing Wendy's bearing the humiliation, the strings in Diluc's heart were severely plucked, and he assured Wendy. Chapter 48. Obviously, Diluc is thinking too much. After all, in his opinion, although Barbados was a little embarrassed, he only became like this because of Mondstadt. Moreover, the Ice God was not dispatched from the Winter Kingdom, only the executive officer of the Fools came. No matter how powerful the opponent is, he is not a god. They Mondstadts can't fight each other. This is not a problem of the Wind God, but a problem of them Mondstadt people. However, now I have an opportunity. I don't know what the upper limit of this chat group is, but it is still an opportunity, isn't it? How many points do you have in your hand? Without hesitation, Diluc asked Wendy directly. There are more than 1,000. Wendy's eyes flickered slightly. Is it more than 1,000? That's good. I think these points are quite valuable. 100 points can increase the so-called internal strength in that year. Although I don't know how much the internal strength bonus is, it seems interesting. Let's do this, give me all your points, and within 3 months, you can drink dandelion wine as much as you want. After pondering for a moment, Diluc suggested to Wendy. 3 months, which is 90 days, converted into 10 or 20 points, is enough for Wendy to drink for 1 day, and the drink is a relatively popular wine like dandelion wine. It seems that Diluc earned it. But Diluc knows Wendy. With Wendy's drinking capacity, if there is no limit, she can drink from day to night, and then drink for several days in a row. Even if she drinks water, she can't drink as much as Wendy. Diluc was very suspicious that Wendy could drink thousands of bottles of wine in these 3 months. For Wendy, it should be very easy to earn points. This can be regarded as Diluc giving some offerings to Wendy in disguise. Of course, you can't get drunk during this period, otherwise it will be easy to mess up. Once you get drunk, I will give up this transaction. Diluc then continued. Free drinks, don't you get drunk? That's great. I agree. Wendy agreed without even thinking about it. Just kidding, as the God of Wind, as long as he doesn't want to get drunk, will he get drunk with ordinary wine? Impossible. Just be a little tipsy and that's it. This is absolutely correct. Then I'll go down and drink. Wendy directly transferred all her 1,772 points to Diluc, and excitedly ran downstairs to drink. Well, don't forget, we are going out to remove monsters tomorrow. Diluc reminded with a slight nod. 1,772 points? It's not a lot, just let yourself see how much this internal strength can improve you. By the way, the physique also needs to be improved. I used the power of the evil eye for revenge, which left some hidden dangers in my body. This chat group seems to be able to solve it for myself. Well, that's great. Next, you need to earn points. It's a pity that this method is only useful for Feng Shen. The other people in the group don't lack mora either. If it could be purchased, I'm afraid Ning Guang would have done it already. She didn't believe that Ning Guang, a woman, hadn't thought of this. As for Wendy, he probably doesn't care about such a small number of points at all, right? The next day, when Mu Yang got up, Barbara was already waiting in the living room. Seeing Mu Yang get up, Barbara showed a bright smile to Mu Yang and said, "Mr. Mu Yang, you are up. What do you want for breakfast?" "It's Barbara." Mu Yang nodded slightly to Barbara. "It's really troublesome for you, just do whatever you want." "No, it should be me who troubles Mu Yang. He taught me to do this yesterday. I just want to thank Mr. Mu Yang in my own way." After a pause, Barbara continued to add, "Moreover, my sister also asked me to entertain Mr. Mu Yang during these few days." "Is that so?" Mu Yang nodded slightly. Wendy's identity may have been exposed. She didn't come back after going out yesterday. He also chatted with Keqing privately all night yesterday. At first, Keqing was a little reluctant, thinking that Mu Yang was disturbing her work, but soon, she discovered Mu Yang's special usage. She would ask Mu Yang about the feasibility of some plans, which also shocked Mu Yang. "I came to see you late at night because I wanted to connect with you, not to work for you, Ah-ching. Wouldn't it be nice for us to chat at night, get to know each other better, and talk about interesting things? But if you ask me how this plan is and whether it is feasible, and treat me as a consultant, will your conscience really not hurt? Do you have to feel pain if I touch your conscience? Well, I must be exerting my strength. Ah-ching, you will lose me if you do this. Keqing, when it comes to dating, isn't it just that you talk about work and ideals with the other person, and let the other person solve your problems for you? After all, when looking for a partner, you are also looking for like-minded people. I believe Mu Yang will also like working with me." In this way, last night Mu Yang and Keqing chatted about work until late into the night, and it ended with Keqing going to bed satisfied. Now seeing Barbara, this girl seems to be 2 years younger than Keqing, but this girlfriend's power is far superior to Keqing. "Ah-ching, look at you, can't you imitate others? It would be great if you could make some beef offal for me in the morning. By the way, my sister went out early in the morning and seemed to be leaving the city. Is she going to deal with the monsters outside the city?" After pondering for a moment, Barbara asked Mu Yang. You came to ask me this question." Mu Yang was also a little speechless. "How did you get the feeling that Jean and I were familiar with each other?" "I just feel that you might know." Barbara looked at Mu Yang with burning eyes, and the wind on the other person's body made her feel very friendly. It was like facing the statue of Lord Barbados every time I prayed. If she hadn't known that the other person was a traveler from another world, Barbara would have suspected that the other person was Lord Barbados. "Is that so?" Mu Yang sighed softly. She should have gone out of the city to clean up monsters with Wendy and I. Look. Although the problem of monsters cannot be completely solved, it can at least ensure the safety around Mondstadt. But will this be dangerous? I heard from the members of the Adventurers Guild that the wilderness of Mondstadt is full of monsters. The Knights of the Westwind did not issue bounties in the Adventurers Guild before, but because many adventurers died, now there are also very few people taking up the mission. Miss Yura has similar strength to her sister, but when she goes out to eliminate monsters every day, she comes back with considerable injuries. Barbara said with worry. Chapter 49. You have to believe in your sister is very good, not to mention that there are Wendy and I look beside you. After a pause, Mu Yang also said, of course, if you don't trust them, I can take you head outside the city. At least I can guarantee your safety. Is this really okay? Barbara also learned from Qin that Mu Yang came to Mondstadt from Liu alone. Without strong strength, he would never be able to do this. Moreover, the other party is someone who can transcend the world. Miss Alice had told her a lot about other worlds. When she was a child, Barbara also fantasized about other worlds in the past. But I was also told by Alice that it is difficult to travel through other worlds. First of all, you must be strong enough. If you don't have special abilities, or you accidentally go to other worlds for some reason, you need to be strong enough. Even the 7 gods may not have such strength. Barbara is very doubtful that Mu Yang has strength comparable to the 7 gods. Can he help his sister solve Mondstadt's problems? But Barbara also knew that she seemed to have no position or qualifications to invite Mu Yang for help. In this regard, I have some confidence, as long as you are willing to trust me. Mu Yang said with a chuckle. Mu Yang was not interested in clearing monsters. He just wanted to go out for a walk and experiment with new abilities, namely the live broadcast function. This was created by Mu Yang yesterday when he was bored. It was just an experiment. People in the chat group can see it if they want to see it. During this period of time, the old man was purifying the filth of the abyss, and Mandrill was either purifying the demonic resentment in his body or recuperating in order to gain points every day. For people who have lost their freedom, they also need to look at the free life outside. Of course I believe you, Mr. Mu Yang. Barbara stared at Mu Yang without hesitation and said, "You are a good person." "I am a good person, am I being issued a good person card?" I had not been issued a good person card before traveling through time, but I did not expect that at this time, I would be issued a good person card. That's interesting. I will protect you. Mu Yang put his hand on Barbara's head and whispered. Such warm hands. For a moment, Barbara actually enjoyed having her head pressed by Mu Yang. Ding, group member Mu Yang has started live broadcast. Group members can click to view. About an hour later, a notification sound appeared in the chat group. Everyone had a look of surprise on their faces. Then they clicked in and saw Mu Yang and Barbara walking in Mondstadt. Not far from them is the Mondstadt gate. Wendy, live broadcast? It's interesting. Can I do live broadcast in the chat group in the future? Mu Yang, it's not impossible for you to do live broadcasts, but there is no reward function for the time being, and you won't get any points for singing. Mu Yang is almost done now. He feels that everyone seems to know that the chat group is related to him, but they just see through it and don't reveal it. In this case, he doesn't intend to hide it too much. Anyway, his strength is already pretty good. Except for some special existences, he doesn't need to be too afraid. Zhongli, this is interesting. When you return to Liu, remember to broadcast Mr. Yun's opera live so that I can watch it in the layer Rock Abyss. Mu Yang, actually, everyone can live broadcast, but only one person can live broadcast at the same time. After my live broadcast is over, you ask others to go to Yunhan Club. Well, it seems that no one in Liu has time now. You can go over there and listen to the show. Qin, Mu Yang, where are you and Barbara going? At this time, Qin also noticed the live broadcast and asked quickly. Mu Yang, I plan to take Barbara out to see the situation outside. Don't worry, I still have some strength and can protect her. Smile.jpg Mu Yang's words left most people in the group at a loss what to say. Does Mu Yang just have a little strength? If you only have a little strength, then who are we? Qin, is that so? I'll leave it to you, Barbara. Keqing, wait a minute, do you think who is the woman entering the city now? Following Keqing's reminder, everyone turned their attention back to Mu Yang's live broadcast room. Look, this is the executive lady of the Fools. There was information before that she was in Mondstadt, but we couldn't find her whereabouts. I didn't expect that she would enter the city openly at this time. Ning Guang, the person who came here is evil. Keqing, why does this executive look so arrogant? It seems that he doesn't take Mondstadt seriously at all. Wendy. Qin. Dialogue. If it weren't for the fact that these two people are now considered allies, and they themselves think so, at this time, they would all doubt whether Keqing and Ning Guang are sowing discord. But why did the lady enter Mondstadt at this time? This made Dialogue and Qin, who were still looking for and killing monsters, look at Wendy one after another. Seeing his silent expression, they were also shuddered. It seemed that this time the arrival of a lady was not like it seems so simple on the surface, but maybe even the ice god will come over. For Mondstadt, this is definitely not a good thing. They need to become stronger as soon as possible. It's just that they don't know that Wendy's appearance is not because of the ice god. Mu Yang did not expect that the lady would come to the city at this time, but she did not pay too much attention to it. The lady's arrogance is simply insane and it just gives her face. Regarding what happened hundreds of years ago, Mu Yang could not comment favorably, but as for what the lady did later, Mu Yang could only say that arrogance is a sin. It's really funny that you dare to directly order Thor. Who do you think you are? The mere fools among the executives, even the ice god, dare not say such words. Of course, if there is a big mistake, it seems that the lady has not made it. It seems that she was tricked to death by Zhongli and Wendy. Of course, skirmishers and doctors also contributed a lot to this. He obviously got the heart of God, but he didn't tell the lady and asked her to give away the head. Chapter 50. What Mu Yang didn't expect was that he had no intention of provoking the lady for the time being, but he didn't expect that the lady would notice him at this time and actually walk towards him. Isn't this Liu's messenger? I didn't expect that Mondstadt would hook up with an ignorant girl so quickly. The lady walked up to Mu Yang, glanced at Barbara who was standing aside, and said with a strange look in her eyes, "In Liu, I became the pretty boy supported by Ning Guang, and then I couldn't get along with Yu Hongxing because of her unclear relationship. Chu was driven to Mondstadt by Ning Guang. Unexpectedly, in just a few days, I hooked up with the priest from Mondstadt. Ning Guang, the pretty boy I kept. Keqing, aren't you sure you want to hook up with me? Zhongli, cough 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 cough. Eat melon rationally. Qin, is this a misunderstanding? This must be a misunderstanding, right? Wendy, actually, not necessarily. After all, Mu Yang is so good looking. If I were a woman, I would also like him like this. Mu Yang, deathstare.jpg, if you can't speak, don't speak. At this time, Mu Yang was completely confused. This guy Dadalia is cheating. He had come to deceive Dadalia with these words before, but in the end, he did not expect that this guy would directly pass them back to the fools. Good guy, when you return to Liu, will you be silenced by Ning Guang killer? Can I still go back to Liu? Dadalia, this half-brother, we can't do it. What does this have to do with you? I'm very curious. What's the purpose of you coming to criticize me for no reason? Mu Yang tilted his head, if you don't give me an explanation, I'm not an easy person to talk to. Barbara looked at Mu Yang and the lady in a daze at this time. This woman seems to be a fool, right? Is Mr. Mu Yang so messy in Liu? Thinking of the many aristocrats in Mondine who were emotionally involved and clamoring for freedom, Barbara felt that these guys should go to the church to apologize. However, this must be a misunderstanding. After all, how could such a sunny and handsome man as Mr. Mu Yang be a freeloader? Moreover, the other party is a fool. Her sister, parents have all told her that she must not believe what the fools say. Oh? Give me an explanation, why should I give you an explanation? The lady sneered and said, you are just a pretty boy who was abandoned by Ning Guang. Do you really think she will continue to protect you now? Moreover, that woman Ning Guang, as long as you give her enough benefits, she will even sell herself, let alone you. Ning Guang. BD. Are you ladies of the fools? Ha ha ha, it seems that my attitude towards the fools has been too modest during this period. At this time, everyone in the group no longer knew what to say. It was obvious that Ning Guang was really angry at this time. The lady's words are really humiliating. They didn't know whether Mu Yang had been humiliated so much, but Ning Guang was humiliated by the lady anyway. Mu Yang sighed softly and said to the lady, I'll give you a minute to apologize, otherwise it will be difficult to master the strength if you want to step over the ants without crushing them. Since we are live broadcasting, we must show off. Who else can show off more than Eisen? D. Wendy, if you want to step over an ant without crushing it, it's difficult to master the strength. Hiss, this sentence is not very powerful. I will write it into poetry in the future. Zhongli, indeed, sometimes power is indeed difficult to control. It is difficult to kill the opponent, but it is difficult to show one's strong strength without killing the opponent. Qin, Mr. Mu Yang, please keep your hands on it. If the executive of fools dies in Mondstadt, Mondstadt will face serious diplomatic pressure. Look, humph, it's not a pity for fools to die. Moreover, even if you let her go at this time, she will not be grateful to Mondstadt. At this time, Qin was also panicking. Although she also saw that the fool was unhappy, she did not want to face that kind of diplomatic pressure. But Look is obviously different. No matter what they do, will the relationship between Solstice and Mondstadt be good? This time the other party comes, obviously they are enemies rather than friends. Moreover, isn't this guy Wendy not worried? Ha ha ha, you laughed me to death. The lady heard Mu Yang's words and gave a mocking smile, Aunt? This is really a huge joke. Although I don't know how you came to Mondstadt alive, but with your meager strength, if you want to challenge me, who gave you the confidence? Or is it your so-called self-esteem that makes you dare to pretend to me at this moment? How many girls have you deceived with this? Mr. Mu Yang. Barbara looked at Mu Yang nervously. She didn't know how strong Mu Yang was, but he didn't seem to be easy to mess with. Other members of the Knights of the West Wind also wanted to come over to help at this time, but were stopped by the fools brought by the lady. Barbara, there's no need to worry. Upon seeing this, Mu Yang put his hand on Barbara's shoulder and whispered softly, "Did you know? The sky is actually colorless. It did not deceive you. It's just your own eyes that deceive yourself. I hope you remember this." This lady was obviously deceived. The lady became even more angry when she saw Mu Yang put his hand affectionately on Barbara's shoulder. It's not that she is mentally ill and deliberately provokes Mu Yang, but she just hates scumbag men and scumbags who deceive women's feelings. As a pure love warrior who will die for love, the lady said that the person she despises the most in her life is the scumbag. You may not have strength, you may not have profound knowledge, and you may not have money and status, but you can never deceive the feelings of a pure girl. The lady will not care about Keqing and Ning Guang. After all, in the lady's opinion, these two women are definitely not pure girls. But Barbara was different. For Qin's sister, the lady saw more or less her original shadow, which she didn't want to destroy. Pure, kind, and singing beautifully. It's simply a carbon copy of myself. The positions of the two parties are at odds. If one day they are going to fight, the lady will not hold back on Barbara. But now when she sees that the other party is about to fall into the hands of a scumbag like Mu Yang, how can the lady allow the softness in her heart to be scumbag by Mu Yang? Even if you want to be a scumbag, you should go to a woman like Ning Guang. Especially when she saw Mu Yang's pig's trotters resting on Barbara's shoulders, the lady became even more angry and grabbed Mu Yang's arm with a chill in her body. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.